This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
No, cut that. Keep that. Someday it's going to be worth something.
Russ Wakeland.
You put me in an ATST with frickin' Wookiees attacking me and whatnot?
Now you're talking. And Mike Turnez in the third chair.
Ahoy!
With contributions from Total Fangirl
Vampires do not sparkle.
and our loyal listeners.
Are you crazy? That's like 400 hours of gamer nonsense.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming, covered at the speed of a fully rigged clipper ship beating before a full gale. Today's edition is brought to you by all of our friends over at Patreon, the men, the women, the boys, and girls who keep the lights on and the show going no matter how mediocre it gets. Today, we'd like to thank Alex Landing, Jeff Lane, Craig Langford, Matt LeBaron, I used to have LeBaron, and Darren Leeds. I'm Keekley McNerney, and your host today. Our panelists are Russ, Watchstander Wakeland, and Captain of the good ship Firelock, game designer, big idea guy, and all-around pirate aficionado, Mike Truebearing Turnez. Let's begin. Issue number 1. Sailing employs the wind, acting on sails, wing sails, or kites, to propel a craft on the surface of the water, sailing ship, sailboat, windsurfer, or kite surfer, on ice, an ice boat, or on land, a land yacht, over a chosen course, which is often part of a larger plan of navigation. Question. The earliest representation of a ship under sail appears on a painted disc dating between 5000 and 5500 BC, found in what country? Raking Russ.
Greece.
Monkey's Fist Mike.
I'm also going to go with Greece.
And that would make you both wrong. Kuwait. How could you not think Kuwait? All that sand in the desert and I don't know. It goes issue number 2. Nautical fiction, also referred to as naval fiction, sea fiction, naval adventure fiction, or maritime fiction, is a genre with a setting on or near the sea that focuses on the human relationship to the sea and sea voyages and highlights nautical culture in these environments. The settings of nautical fiction vary greatly, including merchant ships, liners, fishing vessels, lifeboats, and of course, the very best, naval ships.
Yeah.
Question. What book is considered by most literary scholars to be the first example of nautical fiction in Western culture? Lord Ramage Russ.
The Odyssey.
Stephen Matcher and Mike.
That's exactly what I thought, the Odyssey.
Every now and then I like to throw you guys a bone. Welcome. That's the last one you're going to get. For about 6 months. Issue number 3. The city of Chicago is the third most populous city in the United States. The Chicago metropolitan area, often referred to as Chicagoland, has nearly 10 million people and is the third largest in the United States. Chicago has often been called a global architecture capital and is considered one of the most important business centers in the world. It is, without a doubt, the most important miniatures gaming center in the United States due to its hosting of the annual premier minis gaming convention, Adepticon. Question. One of the most seminal events in the history of Chicago was, of course, the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, which claimed over 300 lives and left over 100,000 people homeless. How many square miles of Chicago were destroyed by the conflagration? Rev Group Russ.
I don't care. All I can think about is deep dish pizza.
Motorola Minotaur Mike.
I'll go with 10,000 since I already got one right.
10,000. I see what you're doing there. I appreciate the thought, and that will make you both wrong. And I appreciate my chance to say that again. 3.3 miles. Even then, it was a dense little town. Issue number 4. There's almost no way you can make a sailing combat game set in the 16th century without at least giving a nod to the galleon, the premier fighting vessel of the time for nearly 150 years. An adaptation from the older style carracks, the galleon was faster, more maneuverable, and more suited in every way to combat on the high seas, establishing itself as the queen of the waves until the dawn of the ship-rigged warships that eventually replaced them. Question. During the momentous conflict against the Spanish Armada in 1588, the British flagship, a galleon of 55 guns, was named the Ark Royal, a name that would continue on in the British naval lists for centuries. That was not, however, the original name of the ship. What was the Ark Royal's original name? Walter Raleigh Russ.
The Wallaby.
Vasco da Gama Mike.
Revenge?
It was a trick question. It was the Ark Raleigh. The Ark Raleigh, named after the guy who commissioned it, Walter Raleigh, who I just called Russ. That makes Russ, you just got it right in your lap and you let it slip.
I like Wallaby.
Oh, that guy had a strong ego, Russ. But you, sir, do not deserve one. That's it for now. Thanks for listening and good night.
This episode of the D6 Generation is brought to you by Lone Wolf Development. Take your game to the next level.
And by Geek Nation Tours. Rise up and join the Geek Nation, touring the world at geeknationtours.com.
And by Audible. Try the service, get a free book, and support the show. All by visiting audibletrial.com/D6G.
Hello.
Hey, welcome to episode 232, Craig.
232 sounds like it should have some sort of important significance attached to it.
Of the D6 Generation. I'm Russ Wakeland.
I am Craig Gallant.
And I'm Mike Turnez.
Hey, Mike.
Welcome
back to the show. Mike, of course,
Army heart.
the mind behind, is it fair to say the mind or one of the many minds behind Firelock Games?
Definitely one of the many minds. Yeah.
I would say, aren't you like the big idea guy, and then you have like an entire staff that makes it actually work?
Something like that, yeah. That's pretty much kind of how it goes.
There you go. Well, that works. So today's show, we're going to catch up with Mike, see what's going on at Firelock, what they've been up to lately. And then also, a little later, we're going to talk about Adepticon 2018. Hank might be joining us and some folks from the Adepticon Council, along with Mike here. We're going to chat about what's going down at Adepticon this year.
What is Adepticon? What are we looking forward to?
Yes. But first, we have some announcements. You know, we did run into...
I don't know what a cake number is either.
We did run into Mike and Craig at Dunkin' Donuts. Craig, do you remember this?
I'm now concerned about who you mean by we.
Well,
we ran into Mike and Craig.
We did. We being myself and other patrons. The small posse that were heading in.
I think that was fast. That was quick thinking, Russ.
Yeah, no problem. I got that.
Yeah.
So whilst we were all hanging out there, do you remember what we talked about, Craig?
I do.
All right.
The question is, do you?
Well, yes, but the real question is, does Mike?
I think you don't. You didn't even remember who was there.
Does Mike remember?
I tried not to. But
we talked about naval literature and books that we liked that had ships in them.
Right.
And we sort of expanded that out for space ships and naval ships.
Exactly.
It was a fairly embarrassing thing for me, so it's a good. I won't say why, but that was.
There was an embarrassing.
Find out why Mike was embarrassed by checking out the Lost Chapter. And Craig, if folks would like to check out that Lost Chapter, what should they do?
Well, my advice would be to go to the d6generation.com, click on the Patreon link in the upper right-hand corner. It will bring you directly to the D6G Patreon page. We'll explain to you what Patreon is. It's the ancient Renaissance model of you guys supporting artists, and we laugh and choke a little bit behind our hands and consider ourselves artists for this one very narrow definition of the term. And if you kick in a tip of $2 or more per episode, it unlocks the entire vault of the Lost Chapters with some suitably impressive sound effects and maybe some smoke and lasers too. Yes. I think if you unlock it in just the right way.
Definitely lasers. Mm-hmm. So what's the time now for, Craig?
Right now it's time for Achievements in Gaming.
Yes, and Achievements in Gaming, of course, brought to us by all our fine patrons over at Patreon, some of whom are listening to us live in the chat room and filling us in on things like cake numbers, which I'm still not sure. I think I need Jeff Engelstein on to explain what a cake number is.
What is a cake number?
I don't know, but ooh, I'm getting a bad feedback. Oh, it's gone now. That's good. Okay, so what have you been playing lately, Mike, for board games, card games, and miniature games?
Well, not a whole lot, unfortunately, aside from plenty of Blood and Plunder, which is always good. But lots of playtesting because we've been focusing on the new expansion, and there's a ton of new stuff in there. So it's you got to play it all at least a few times to make sure it all kind of jives and works together. So that's kind of eating up.
Yeah,
just Firelock stuff is just eating up the vast majority of my playtime. But I have been able to sneak in a few games of Relic Blade, which is a pretty cool little skirmish game. I don't know if you guys have heard of it.
Ooh. Yeah, what do you like about Relic Blade? What draws you to it?
I like that you can play it on a small surface. Any game that I can play on a 2x2 is automatically going to draw me in. So it's really well designed. It's got a lot of tactical decision making, and it's got a lot of flavor. I like the way you can customize characters with your cards and different things, kind of like you would in X-Wing, right? So it's kind of like a Frostgrave meets X-Wing kind of thing.
Oh, sounds cool to me.
It's a lot of fun. It's pretty
nothing
cool.
Not to like there.
And it's very impressive. I appreciate it even more because the guy who develops it, Sean Sutter, is he does everything himself. He does the art, the game design. He runs his Kickstarters, does the whole thing.
Yeah, I think we met him at Adepticon last year and chatted with him briefly, and we're supposed to call him. We should call him, Russ.
We should. That'd be excellent.
Definitely.
Or if he's listening, he should call us because that's or email us. That's far more likely to happen because we're a little scatterbrained, to say the least.
We are.
Yeah, so it's a fun game and it's cool because it's quick. I can actually get a game in. I did. I also got to play a little bit of. I guess I'm doing a lot of fantasy skirmish stuff, but I got to play a little bit of Kings of War Vanguard alpha rules that they released for that. That was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Got to play a couple games.
Now, what's really got your fancy in the new alpha rules? What's hot?
So if something sticks out of it is I kind of like the way you can the what is it, the command dice. I think I haven't played it. It was like a month ago, so I've had a lot of things in my mind, but it's cool. I like what interests me the most that I haven't been able to try yet is how they're going to integrate it with regular Kings of War into like a campaign system, right? Where you've got like skirmishes and all that happened before. But it's but the game itself is pretty fun. They don't have the faction I like to play most in there yet, so I've just played the one go round, and it seems like it's got some flavor, and it's going to be a pretty cool tie-in to Kings of War. So
nice. So it's basically a skirmish rule set for Kings of War universe that you can they're going to interlock with campaigns. So you do a small skirmish and then a major engagement that's impacted by what happens in the skirmish.
Right.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Now, what's your favorite faction that's currently missing?
The Kings of Men, which is
so the humans.
They don't make miniatures for that, so I think it's going to be like one of the things they add in later.
Yeah, but, if only you could find some good fantasy human miniatures.
What is the what's the Warhammer Fantasy equivalent of the Kingdoms of Men? Like, what's the correlation supposed to be?
So it actually, I think it's kind of Empire, but it's but I think the actual list for Empire is the other one, the one with halflings and stuff.
Yeah,
of Rordia, that's the one. League of Rordia. Kingdoms of Men is supposed to be for historical miniatures.
Oh, that's cool.
Like Viking stuff. So I've been
gotcha.
I got a bunch of Blood and Plunder minis that happen to work really well, I think.
See, there you go. So now you can cross over, right?
Clever.
I like it. I see where you're going.
So yeah. You got they've got like arquebusiers and they've got sword buckler guys and spearmen and bow stuff that all fits in that we could use. So I've got a full army ready to go. I'm just waiting for the list.
You got a multitask.
Love it. You're ready. I love it.
Yeah. I like that. Cool.
That's a pretty good list for someone who's distracted most.
Said he wasn't. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's that pretty much covers the last 6 months of making.
That's fair. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Craig, what about yourself, Craig? What have you been playing?
Well, let's see. My 40K in 2018 has continued. Only this time I played a giant game. Giant for me because we've been playing 1,000-point games. Then we played a couple 1,500-point games. And last week we played a 2,000-point game because there were 3 of us who wanted to play. Everybody else had kind of bailed that night. And so I brought 2,000 points of my Death Guard Chaos guys and played against Justin's Space Wolves for 1,000 points and Chuck's Ultramarines Primaris, the new big giant beefy guys, with 1,000 points. So it was a 2,000 points aside game, and I got crushed. Which brings me to I'm batting 500. I'm winning only 50% of my games in 2018, which is good, which is slightly worse than I was doing in 2017, I think. The problem is that the Death Guard, you pay a lot of points for their troops, right? They're not any better than anybody else's troops, except they have that 5+ save on taking a wound whenever they take a wound. So that's factored into their points, I happen to believe. And my 500 rating pretty much bears that out. But it is a very frustrating thing to have to go through for my opponents who are trying to kill my guys, and I've got this extra last minute little 5+, 2 out of 6 chance save that when it's hot can be very frustrating indeed. And in that game, they were picking all the mission cards they needed. They were getting all their points. It was. I had 2 points in the end of the second turn, and they had like 8 or 9 points in the end of the second turn. And that's pretty much how it ended up all the way till the very end when I got a couple good cards and started cranking things out. But I was on the back foot getting my butt handed to me the entire game. But I was also making a lot of those 5+ rolls. So it was frustrating to them, but it wasn't having an impact on the game other than the fact that they were slowly getting whittled down and I still had a few guys left here or there. Ultimately, it became kind of a high tension environment where their frustration kind of boiled over a little, not nothing bad, but you could just sense that there was a lot of frustration. And I was like, well, now I'm frustrated because I'm losing. Right. So that's where the did you ever notice from last episode sort of came from, where I think I'm going to go back to my IG and see if I can give a more enjoyable game and maybe win more than 50% of them without like being frustrating. So that was weird and an interesting experience. And yeah, it was odd, but hey, there you go. Then I played on Sunday. Your brother and our friend Joe came over and we played Rune Wars, and that was fun. So still playing that game. That was I played the Uthuk Ilan Chaos guys again, and they played humans with 1 unit of elven allies. And it was a brutal game that really came down to 1 die roll at the end. It was balanced on a knife edge. And if they had managed to kill this 1 demon, it would have completely turned the game around. But instead, I was able to get an attack off first because of my initiative. And I killed the only model they had there that could have killed the demon. And so I managed to squeak it out. But it was a lot of fun. Very, very close game. The Ravos, the ever hungry, big, giant, fat guy, was down to 1 wound by the end because of the raised by elves human commander who throws wounds around like they're going out of style when she's in hand to hand. So she was never in hand to hand with my guy and never actually shooting at him. She was just stripping him of wounds every turn using those special surge abilities. So that was a lot of fun. And then on Tuesday, Russ, to remind you, to jog your memory, you and I played a quick game of Necromunda. Yeah. So Games Workshop sent us a whole bunch of Necromunda stuff a while ago, and it just wasn't fitting into the rotation. And finally, we kind of just made a decision that we were going to do it because it's going to fit in with a couple things we have coming down the pike in the near future. And I was very nervous. Russ is on record as not being enamored of many GW games, and they kind of fall, even the ones he gets excited about kind of fall flat for him after a few plays. And it's always a little nerve jangling to introduce him to a new GW game, but I thought it went pretty well.
Rob? Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was taking a sip.
That's okay. I caught you at the wrong time.
So I really enjoyed it much more. I did not expect to enjoy it.
No, you did not.
Because I was afraid that GW will not have refactored the rules at all, that it was just a reprint essentially.
Right.
But no, they've really rethought the rules in a lot of good and interesting ways and really had a good time. So I think we're going to play it a bit more and I'm sure we'll end up doing a detailed review of it, but I really enjoyed what I saw there. They mitigated a lot of the sort of niggly, persistent random problems in Necromunda, which is good.
Yeah.
We haven't played enough yet to discover Warband Balance, which was the real deal breaker from when we originally played it.
A deal breaker after like 4 years of nonstop leagues.
Yes. No. I bailed the first. No, there were some problems with that one particular band that Joe used to play all the time.
Right, but he played that. So yeah.
Right, that's what I mean. So if that guy was there, it was like I'm out.
Yeah, they're not in it, and I don't think politically they could be in anything at this time in history. So
that's good.
You probably don't have to worry about them.
So that's good. But I like the mechanics. We'll talk more about them in the future. But I really enjoyed that, and when we get to modeling, we'll talk about the assembly. The models look beautiful, and I love the plastic bases that come in there. Really cool, detailed bases, which is neat.
Yep, absolutely. And then after dinner, Russ went home, and Rob and the other historical guys in our group loosely part of our group, our gaming community, our wider gaming community, had been setting up Sales of Glory and had invited me to come back and give it a shot after dinner. And I did that, and they welcomed me in, and I love that game. I didn't forget how cool it is. I have it on my shelf. I can see it right now. And it's one of those, I wish I could get that game back, get into the rotation. And so we played 2 games last night and really, really enjoyed it. That's just a great game that scales really well with the difficulty level. It can go all the way from beer and pretzels, really fast and quick sailing ships combating each other, all the way to really complex. You have to plan out what all your crew members are doing, and you don't have enough crew to do everything that you need to do. Like once you're in the battle, you need some guys patching your hull and some guys patching the sails and some guys putting out fires. But then, of course, you still need guys loading cannons, but you have to load both sides. You don't really need to, which side are you going to need? And so it can get really complex really fast, but it's a really, really fun game. So I hope I hope that gets more play in the near future. So that was me. What about you, Russ?
Well, we already talked about Necromunda. Unfortunately, not a lot. Had a lot of work stuff happening, but so winter break is coming up here. So February vacation for school, and I'll be taking the time off to do a little traveling with the family, but we'll be local for a few days. And so we've decided to do a 2-day D&D fest. So I've been running the 5e campaign, The Rise of Tiamat, with my daughters, my niece and nephew, as I mentioned, along with my brother. And my brother was getting the itch to also try DMing for us for a bit. So we're going to try that as well. So we're going to do is 2 days of 6-hour sessions each day, but 3 hours of my campaign and 3 hours of his. So it should be a lot of fun. Wow. We've already rolled up our characters and we started doing some crazy stuff. So I've decided to play a forest gnome who's always aspirationally dreamed of being an elf. So he has many of the elven characteristics, and so I'm using some of the new stuff.
Types and
no. So there's this new the newest D&D supplement introduces some new subclasses for a fighter, and so one of them is the Arcane Archer. So the Arcane Archer introduces some really cool crazy archery skills. Like you can fire at higher levels, you can fire arrows that track around corners and things. The idea being there's magic or in them, and they can explode into all kinds of crazy stuff. And these are generally master elven archers that other races try to emulate. So, but my gnome who aspires to do this does the same sort of mechanics or same sort of tricks, but instead of doing it with magic, he has to tinker his way through it with gizmos. That's my fluff. So
cool.
We're trying that. But also they also introduced in the latest supplement, which is my favorite thing, which is the equivalent of cantrips for magical items. So these are really trivial level 1 like magic items that you could start the campaign with. And so the one I chose to get is a cloak of billowing. All this cloak does is that it normally billows, like flows out behind you and flaps in the wind at will. But mine is different. Mine, because my guy is also extremely arrogant, whenever his name is stated, his cloak billows, which will have some negative effects. For example, if he's hiding in a bush and a bad guy says, "Where is that idiot?" and names my character, my cloak would suddenly shoot out of the bush and billow. So but I'm having a lot of fun creating this character. We'll see how he does. We're looking forward to it. So we're very much looking forward to that. Still having a great time with 5e, and the supplements are fantastic. So many little nuggets like that in the expansions that just give you great hooks for fun ideas and fun character concepts, like the Arcane Archer, like the little silly magical cantrips like Cloak of Billing. Wait till you read these like 3 pages of crazy magic items that do absolutely nothing, but just get you really excited to embed them in your characters.
Sounds cool to me.
Really fun stuff.
Cool.
So that's what we've been playing lately. What about modeling? Mike, anything you've been building, painting lately? I'm sure there's something to do with Age of Sail stuff.
Well, as it happens, I have been painting a whole bunch of Blood and Plunder models and ships and cannons and making terrain, doing a bunch of stuff of that nature, primarily to get things in pictures for the book and for all the cons we're doing lately and are going to do, such as the fantastic event we'll be running with you guys at Adepticon.
Yes.
So,
looking forward to that.
Yeah. So that's been really the vast majority. I did recently pick up some Relic Blade minis and paint those. And tonight because you guys have already embarrassed me once in the at Dunkin' Donuts. I brought paints with me. I have some bolt action minis that I was gonna start painting. I was thinking I'm gonna paint those tonight so I can have something else to talk about. So that part of my talk's not 1 minute long. But
if you turn your camera on in the chat room there, you could show it to the
well,
patrons.
Unfortunately, I never quite had the time to put it all together.
But
too much work to do, unfortunately. But we could just edit that out, and I could lie and say I did it.
We could pretend. See, this is like I've been watching a lot of Northwoods Law lately, and this is like when I was like, "So you have a fishing license?" Yes, Excellent. Well, that's great. So we're looking forward to that event. You guys always do amazing paint jobs, amazing models, and insane terrain. So that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and we have a very cool overlapping, excited crew at Adepticon. So it was fun. Last year was great. I expect it to be even better.
Yep. And we're bringing a whole bunch of the new ships and all the new stuff, and we got a couple of big galleons and everything coming out. So
there's going to be a galleon there. I'm super excited.
2 galleons, at least
2 galleons.
If I'm going to try to paint a third one, let's see what we do.
Nice. Excellent. Awesome.
It's always good to have goal.
Craig, what about you, sir?
Well, I'm still doing my mercenary paint job on these elves. I'm gonna have to say that the elves for Rune Wars are my favorite models. I think.
Aren't they awesome?
Yeah, I think. I mean, the detail on them is. I mean, I like all of them. Find the undead to be a little cartoony. I find the baronies of Dakon human troops to be a little fiddly, like a sort of a combination of Baroque and cartoony. And I really like the fine detail of the barbarian guys, but they're not really there's not a lot of detail on them because they're mostly, they've got skirts on and otherwise they're naked with spines pulling out of their flesh, and their weapons are all made out of bone also. So there's not a lot of variation, but these elves, the detail is beautiful. They don't look at all cartoony. They're very sort of true scale. There's just I love all the little details and the little flourishes. And so I'm sort of frustrated that I have so many freaking models still to paint for Rune Wars, considering how many I've already painted. But at the same time, I'm glad I'm finishing up with these guys because I'm really very impressed with how they look and how they paint up. I mean, they paint up pretty easily, all things considered.
Well, you've only done 4 full-sized armies.
I know. I feel like I'm really letting everybody down.
I'm not really surprised that you're running out of steam there, but yeah, I also love the elves. Obviously, I think they're fantastic. So I would say they're the best of their range. I hope they still make this stuff. There's still a couple more preview things on their website that they haven't yet done. So I hope they do come out because it's such a great game.
What do you guys think of the plastics for those?
We love them. I mean, they're a little bendy. I mean, they're definitely not the same quality you'd get from, a GW or a Privateer Press or a Weird. But they're better than a board game quality. So you're looking somewhere in the middle, but a good middle. I think in fact, when we were at Captain Con, several people came up to our trays of models and were looking at like, what games are these from? Like they didn't immediately think it was a board game. Several people thought because the elves have the leader on a moose and everything, they thought it was from the Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings line. Unless you really look, it's not immediately obvious. These are not quite the normal level of miniature gaming adventures.
And the quality of the plastic is such that it's not like, as Russ said, it's not like board games or Bones miniature quality where you have to boil them to get them straight again. You can basically straighten them out without heat, and most of them are going to be straight.
Yep.
Cool. They are a softer plastic, but they're definitely not at the low end of soft plastics.
I'm not afraid of soft plastics. I'm just more concerned with if they bend real easy. You know what I mean?
No, I think they're solid. I think you would be happy with them. What I was really impressed with was, and Craig, I think you did this too, is I built 2 armies of these guys. I didn't do any filing.
Yeah.
And the only assemble I did was push them together with a little dot of glue. There was no dry fitting, there was no filing, there was no clipping, and there's no mold lines. I mean, there really aren't any noticeable any of that stuff.
Yeah. I've come up to a couple of I've found a couple on the elves, but nothing that I've felt. I mean, especially considering the speed I'm doing these with, nothing that was so egregious I had to stop everything and go back and fix those.
Yeah.
Cool. I asked, of course, because of Legion coming out and whatnot. That's a question I keep hearing people asking.
I think, Legion's also a much larger scale.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be even cleaner looking.
Yeah, I saw those I saw the minis at excuse me, they use a different material for the prototypes, but Gen Con had them, and they're humongous.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's me.
All right. Well, the only thing I've been working on is I did work with Craig.
Me. Yeah, I was going to say.
You can chime in here.
Yes.
It was Necromunda. So I showed up at the gaming store and Craig's like, hey, let's do some Necromunda. And he had all the stuff literally just right out of the box. Nothing clipped, nothing.
No.
So we sat down together. It was kind of nice. We had assembled models together. And I swear we sounded like two grumpy old men.
We did. We sounded like the guys from the Muppets.
It was really terrible in a funny, very hilarious way. And to the point where Craig and I were like, we should really do this live on a Lost Chapter because it's probably pretty funny.
Right. Or at least we were cracking ourselves up anyway.
We thought it was funny.
Put it that way.
I mean, your mileage may vary. But what we thought was, the reason we started getting grumpy was these are quite probably the most complicated miniatures I've ever had to put together from a company who knows better. In other words, there was a period of time when Weird first went to plastics that their assembly was very complicated. But to be fair, they were learning and they were really trying to do some crazy, super, thin.
Yeah.
GW has really mastered the plastic. I would argue that GW is really the best at plastic manufacture and plastic models out there. And I love their stuff. So when we got to the Necromunda guys, what shocked me was the level of detail on the instructions to put the guys together. Because I was thinking of Shadespire, which is basically 2 parts per model. Or if you think of the recent, the new version of Space Hulk not too long ago, these things looked amazing. They were really essentially snapped together. So I was fully expecting Necromunda to be something in that ballpark. But no, this thing was like the heads are multi-part pieces.
Yeah.
So the
hairdos and the faces.
The hairdos and faces slide together, and those are 2 bits. Then every arm with gun assembly is really 3 to 4 bits. I think only of the models, almost all of them had multi-part legs.
Yeah.
And then there's additional war gear you glue on, but it's all, you can do whatever you want, but all the characters are pre-assigned. And what's interesting is so many parts are shared. So when you're looking to assemble a model, there's actually 2 different diagrams with color-coding numbers, where if you're trying to assemble model A, whose name is blue, you have to pick all the things of black numbers plus all the things of blue numbers. But if you're trying to assemble model B, whose text is red, you have to pick all the things of black numbers, but all the things with red numbers. And you're clipping them out of these sprues, which are all numbered. You can't just go ahead and clip a bunch of guys out and assemble a bunch of legs in a row and arms in a row, because you got to do each model individually. If I'm making it sound like it's more complicated than it is, no, it's pretty freaking complicated. If you're not a veteran miniature gamer, you're not going to want to do this. I don't
know. And I found it frustrating because it's complicated, and yet at the same time, there are no choices.
Right.
So basically, you got 10 guys. They're going to use it's 5 torsos that you get 2 sprues, which is another thing I don't quite understand. So you get 2 identical sprues because you're going to need 2 sets of the torsos. Then you've got 2 sets of arms for each torso, 2 heads for each torso, or actually sometimes it's the same hair but 2 different faces, which is odd. And then everyone has one little cool little item that it can wear on its belt, or some little added detail piece. And so it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fiddly cutting. They're tiny. They're not heroic scale. They're actually the true scale, so they look very fine detailed. And yet at the same time, you can't customize them at all, because they're very much like the snap together models in that way that GW has been coming out with over the last few years now, where that's the model that you're going to get. And if you want to convert it from that model, you're going to have to do a lot of work, and there's going to be green stuff involved, and you're going to have to be totally reshaping things, because that's the way those arms go together, and they don't really go together any other way. And so it was frustrating. Although I must admit that Russ's passive aggressiveness that he was showing to the models
Yes,
was a little disturbing.
It was awesome. That's what would make a whole great podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, it was not this.
He was having a very passive aggressive conversation with the plastic sprues.
Yes.
You want to be that way? That's fine. I can work with that. I was like, Russ.
Who doesn't want a 6-piece head? I do. So anyway, it was. But the thing was, they look great. So it was just. And part of the, we just wanted to play too. So it's probably not the normal state, but definitely not a beginners. This is not designed for non-miniature gamers.
No, that's what we also said.
Right.
We imagined like Shadespire is very much sort of an entry level kind of thing as far as the miniatures go. And we thought that Necromunda might be that, but Necromunda is not that. Necromunda is very much geared, at least it feels like it's very much geared towards people who are already invested in the universe, who already like the idea of Necromunda and aren't going to shy away from a very complicated modeling project.
Yeah. So in any case, but we got them all assembled and we're looking forward to it. We enjoyed the game so much, we're going to build more. Yes. Meanwhile, in other stuff, Mike, what about geeky goodness, like books, TV shows, movies? What are you watching and reading?
Okay, so I've started to watch a bunch of stuff and typically fallen asleep. But now now that my son's a little older, I've watched. I've watched Moana about 572 times this week, and now that Coco's out, I got that one. I've seen that several hundred times already.
Coco's pretty good.
They're all pretty good. I like the Disney stuff. It's not
6 times maybe a little much, but sure.
A few hundred times, lots of that. So I'm watching lots of. Let's see what else is like Trolls, and that's what's made up the vast majority of my TV time lately.
Sounds very familiar.
I did see the first episode of Gunpowder. Pretty cool. Looks like it's going to be an interesting show. I haven't been able to watch any more of it yet, but I'd like to catch up with that. As far as TV goes, man, that's really about it. There's I'm trying to get my hands on. There's a movie about Bolivar and the South American revolutions and stuff that's come out recently. I think it's come out recently. It may have been a while. I'm not sure. But I've been trying to watch that, but I can't really find a place to watch it. So I might probably just splurge and buy the Blu-ray or something. As far as reading goes, I have been reading lots and lots of history books. I'm already kind of simultaneously, while finishing up this Kickstarter, already working toward the next expansion, so starting the research for that. I've reread a book called The Memoirs of Pere Labotte. I'm mispronouncing that for sure. It's a French priest in the New World right around the turn of the century of the 17th and 18th centuries, so early 1700s. And he's just describing all his experiences, and he ends up in battles and being captured by Spanish Navy ships and stuff like that. So it's all it's the very beginning of the War of Spanish Succession, which is Queen Anne's War, which is where Blackbeard and guys like that start cutting their teeth and start learning their trade. So I've got that one read. I've also reading a book by guy's last name is Laramie. That book just came out. That's the first, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's the first book somebody's written on that conflict in like 100 years. So it was really good to get something updated because that was a lot of stuff from that. That's like the first French and Indian War, right? So it's the 1680s and 90s, and it's the French Canadians fighting against the English and the Native Americans, and they're all kind of it's the beginning of that kind of struggle for the North American continent, right, between England and France and the Native Americans. And it's just such an interesting time period and conflict, and it doesn't really get a lot of coverage or attention, but there's lots of stuff in our new expansion that covers that. So
cool.
I'm excited to start making some models for that stuff. So another book, let's see, I got right here is British Drums on the Southern Frontier. That's more 18th century stuff, the conflicts between Spanish Florida and English South Carolina and Georgia. So or the beginnings of what would be Georgia. And I I downloaded Master and Commander.
There you go. You're getting there.
Yeah. So soon I'll be listening to that. And I'll be getting that under my belt. And
good. I think you have to have that in the repertoire.
It's kind of embarrassing.
To really listen to the Lost Chapters, everyone. But I'm just saying, I think that needs to be in the repertoire. Yes. Just try.
It does. Yeah. It does. So I'm gonna alleviate that. You guys have pushed me over the edge, and I'm gonna finally do it. So the next time I'll have some.
Peer pressure is a terrible thing.
Oh, it's a wonderful
thing. It is.
Thankfully, so.
Yeah, you won't regret it.
I don't know if this counts as geeky goodness. I think it does count as geeky goodness, right?
Okay.
According to my wife, this stuff is about as nerdy and geeky as you can get. See, and actually next week I'm gonna do a reenactment.
Ooh.
My first ever venture in this. So they're in St. Augustine every year. They recreate a raid by Robert Serrell, who's an English buccaneer, right?
Right.
And so it's like I think it's the only place. If I'm not mistaken, St. Augustine is the only place in this country where you could actually recreate where an actual kind of pirate battle took place. Maybe you could kind of sort of do Blackbeard if you were able to do it on the water. But sure, that's about the only one. So I've had, obviously, clearly at least, I may not have read Master and Commander, but I have a pretty authentic pirate getup. So
nice.
I'm gonna. So anyway. I'm going off.
I don't want to be critical of your upfront, mention there. The ahoy was pretty brilliant, but you may want to work on your pirate insults or pirate verbal, banter.
Well, I don't think I need to because I'll be a Spaniard, so I speak Spanish.
Oh,
so
okay,
I'll just be.
So hit us with some good. What's a good insult in Spanish that would have been used at that period?
So if I'm insulting some English pirates. I'd call them perros ingleses or probably some kind of religious slur of some kind, like Luteranos hereticos or something like that. So heretics, English dogs, something along those lines. Pretty much what it would be.
All right, I like it. That's good.
I don't want to go into any of the other ones. I don't think it's appropriate.
No,
yes,
family friendly.
Yes,
right,
exactly.
Right. Okay.
I'll just do the easy. Those.
All right, good.
We've got some listeners in Spanish-speaking places.
But to give people a real feel on the beach, you're going to go all the way.
Oh, of course.
All the way.
You got to do it.
Okay.
I think I don't know what the rules on that are, so I have to find out.
Right.
Yeah. Do a little research on that. How
your mileage may vary on that. Right.
Yeah. I said all that to say that according to my wife. I've been gaming since we met and stuff. But according to her, this is going over the top on the nerd.
You crossed the line.
I would think my wife would feel the same.
She's like, "Wow, you're."
But it's not the same as LARPing, right?
No, definitely not.
Now, don't be judgmental about LARPing, Russ.
I'm not. I'm just throwing it out there.
Since we've touched that third rail.
No, there's nothing wrong with LARPing.
Not there's anything wrong with LARPing.
It's just generally considered to be one of the more geeky pursuits.
Yeah.
It's like if there's a social hierarchy of geeky activities, it's kind of like video games have kind of moved almost out of the realm of geekdom somehow over the past 20 years and into sort of mainstream. Like you can play certain video games, and you're kind of, not considered a nerd.
Yeah.
But there's other forms of geekery. And I just feel like, anyway, not to go too far into that rabbit hole. Just throw that out there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Let's not look too deeply into that mirror.
We all know.
I said that to lend credence to the fact that reading historical books does count as geekiness. So I qualify on this round. So I've got some
there you go.
Stuff to contribute.
There's your geek cred right there.
There it is.
Yes. All right, excellent.
That was bound to happen.
That's good. I'm impressed. I'm impressed, Mike. That's
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I can finally contribute something to one of these conversations.
Oh,
that's
please.
Excellent.
It's all contribution.
So Craig, we're running a little long. So give us the brief version of what you've been doing.
The brief version is Dance of Dragons does not suck at 1.5 speed. So I'm enjoying that because the parts that you like are really cool and the parts that you don't care about are short. So that's been going. I am absorbing every bit of fluff that FFG has ever published about Legend of the Five Rings, and that's taking a long time because they have more fluff than anything else that I am aware of that FFG has ever done. So that's odd. So lots of Japanese fluff being absorbed. I won't say understood, or anything else. But I am absorbing it. And then I saw Black Panther, which I think we'll probably end up talking about in a lost chapter in more detail.
Yes.
I really enjoyed it. I thought the world that they built was fantastic. I thought the acting was phenomenal. And I really, really enjoyed the full experience. And I thought the story arc was great. I know that there are, like, for instance, Reese thought it got a little slow in the middle, and I've heard other people say that. I enjoyed it just because the performances and the characters were really engaging. And so I enjoyed it a lot. Altered Carbon, I feel like I have to make no apologies for. It is amazing. It is the best sci-fi show I have seen in a very long time. The concepts are really mind-bending and intriguing. The world that they've created is ridiculously internally consistent. And the acting is phenomenal. The tech that they've come up with is really immersive. So I am loving Altered Carbon. And I went back to Walking Dead because I wanted to see what was going on. And I was like, I'm just going to watch it until they kick all of the survivors in the groin again. And then I'm going to stop watching it again. So I watched it for about 3 or 4 episodes and went, oh, yeah, don't care. It's okay. And then moved back over to Cowboy Bebop, which I'm still churning through and enjoying as well. And it's FFG Fluff. Shay is what I'm reading. Oh, okay. Just not the previous incarnations of Legend of the Five Rings. What about you, Russ?
Oh, so real quick, I'm kind of between books at the moment, so I got to get a new one going. But I also enjoyed Black Panther. We will definitely talk about that in a lost chapter. Also, super enjoying Altered Carbon. Everything Craig said about it. This Netflix series is amazing. So definitely, if you are any kind of interest in sci-fi, go watch it immediately. Don't stop, and we'll definitely talk about that in a lost chapter at some point. Video games front, I have gone through the main story of Assassin's Creed Origins, and while doing so, I was so addicted to it, I did every side quest. But now I've got the DLC for the hidden ones, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through that. But my daughter's got me distracted now with Monster Hunter Worlds, and this game is far more fun than it has any right to be. And I'm sure I'll talk more about that in future episodes.
Does that have anything to do with
even
Monster Hunters Inc.?
No. It's based on, so it's the continuation of it's another incarnation in the Monster Hunter video game series, not related to the works by Larry Correia.
Right.
But Worlds is pretty impressive. You basically fight giant sort of dinosaur-esque, but also very fantasy style creatures, either alone or up to 4-player co-op. But the thing that's interesting is as you kill them and slay them, you craft new weapons and armor out of them. The show is extremely anime.
Sounds like
extremely over the top. Yeah, swords it is that kind of art style. The swords are crazy large, crazy, it's very like very anime. It's just really different fighting styles with the weapons, really different fighting styles with the monsters. Really interesting game. So I'll talk more about that in the future.
That sounds cool.
And so, I think that's a lot of achievements.
We achieved a lot.
And now, in an attempt to bring a small amount of dignity and decorum to this otherwise base form of entertainment, and I use the term loosely, I am proud to present... Oh, get on with it. It's time for App of the Ep. Seriously, Wakeland, I used to have my own segment, and now I'm relegating to announcing this pap. Hey, you're lucky we still use you.
Hey, welcome to another App of the Ep. This time around I have mixed feelings, and I normally don't like to review apps I don't love. But the thing is, I really want to love this one, and I want to love it so bad that I need to talk about it. So I'm going to sort of share my feelings with all of you on this one, and you guys can decide if it's something you want to try out. The good news is it's free to try. It is a freemium app, and it is, of course, Hero Academy 2. And the reason I really want to love this game is because I so loved the first Hero Academy. The first Hero Academy was a fantastic game. It was a brilliant model where I believe the first one was free. You got one faction, and then you paid for each additional faction. And it was kind of like a miniatures game meets a mobile game meets a board game, because you basically had different unit types. There was the humans with their knights and their archers and their mages, and then there was the elves with their fancier archers, and there were dark elves, and then there was like an orc faction, and they keep adding factions. It was like $5 a faction, and everybody bought them all. It was great. Hero Academy 2 is a rebirth of the franchise, and the graphics really upgraded quite a bit. They're a little more cartoony. Actually, my daughters like the original more. But I kind of like them. It's still a 2D board, but now it's 2D isometric, sort of a 3D kind of a look to it. I love the art style. And what they've introduced now is this card deck collecting mechanic where you get these cards, and that's how you summon your guys, right? And because there are so many different cards you can get, there are so many more unit types, and there's rarity and things like that. And on its face, that seems really cool. But the downside is you don't just buy factions. Now you kind of buy card packs that may or may not randomly. I don't know. It's kind of like the loot box thing. I really want to like it because there's a lot going on here. There's some cool tactics. Like there's this indirect fire stuff. There's all kinds of cool things, but because the cards are random, not all factions have them at the same time because it's really based on the player's ability to find these lucky cards. So unlike the original Hero Academy or a miniature game where there's essentially a fixed army selection that you can bring to the table. I mean, you can pick and choose how you want to put your combination together, but every player has access to all the different unit types. In this version of Hero Academy 2, now it's based entirely on what you're able to find. So it's kind of like finding rare cards in a CCG. So if you're a Magic player, maybe this will appeal to you. But as a miniature gamer who kind of like felt the original Hero Academy was sort of like miniature gaming kind of sort of brought to the mobile device in a little bit. Hero Academy 2 feels more like a CCG that happens to have a grid. So I kind of feel like they ruined my Hero Academy, but at the same time, it could be really awesome. I mean, there's so many things I love to like. The animation styles, there's so much cool variety in there. There's this new mushroom faction that's pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot going on in this game that could be really, really cool. So I think you should check it out. It is free. But again, man, let me know what you think on this one. I want to like it, but I kind of wish it was like the old one, just spruced up. So anyway, give it a go. Check it out. That's Hero Academy 2 on iOS.
Thank you for listening to another scintillating edition of App of the App, a segment in which,
hey, less of that, more just getting on with the show.
Seriously, Wakeland, you are like school in summer. No class.
Hey, welcome back, and now it's time for Firelock Revisited.
There you go.
Yeah, see, I just preempted Russ's title for the segment.
Yeah.
Now you'll long-time listeners, or not even long-time listeners. It's been what, a bit over a year since the last time we've talked to you, Mike, or is it? It's been longer than that, actually.
It's been about a year and a half, I would say, if I had to guess.
Okay.
Because
since we last had you on, and of course, Mike is from Firelock Games, and his game is Blood and Plunder, which we talked about a lot. And we love and continue to love. And we're going to be, of course, doing it again at Adepticon.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot has gone on with Blood and Plunder. Many of you should have noticed it showing up all over the place online, which is kind of like, a really good benchmark of if your game's getting traction when it shows up at places like Miniature Market and the War Store and places like that. I mean, it's kind of like that's a pretty good benchmark, isn't it, Mike?
I think so. Yeah, I'm definitely really happy and excited to be in those places. And we got pretty good relationships with both those guys. We go to a lot of conventions with the War Store. And the Miniature Market reached out to us even before our Kickstarter was fully shipped and stuff. So they backed us from day one. So it's kind of cool.
There you go. Yeah. So we thought, well, first we're gonna be working with Mike at Adepticon again. So we're really looking forward to that. And of course, all this new stuff is happening. And you're what? I think by my calculations, you're about 1 month away from fulfilling your second Kickstarter, right?
A little bit more than that, unfortunately. We hit some.
It's Kickstarter. It happens.
It looks like right now we're going to be about 2 months late, so we're looking to start shipping in May. We had a lot of issues with our Chinese book manufacturer. They do some weird stuff where they're basically I hope I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this or not. But what happened was they basically shut down a bunch of factories in order to pass EPA regulations. So. So yeah, I don't know if that makes me a little concerned about what's going on over there where they're making the book, but
hey,
but
can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs.
Yeah, well, that we've moved since we last talked. We've moved. We're on our third location, so we've had to move. We had the hurricane, which was
right.
We had our last building was Mike. What a story that is! I'll tell you the story sometime, but that's going to take too long to tell now. But
really?
That was an experience. I'll tell you that, the last place. But let's just say that it culminated where we just realized we had to get a new spot when it was 3 days before the hurricane was supposed to strike, and our roof started leaking. So we were able to get a guy out there to look at it to try to patch it up for us, and he just basically told us, this whole roof needs to be replaced. So, we put some Flex Seal up in the cracks, and somehow no water got in. That stuff actually works. It's amazing.
Yeah, there you go. Unsolicited testimonial, folks. Flex Seal.
It was very surprising. But anyway, yeah. So we've had a lot of delays in that regard. We thought we were still going to be good, but then the Chinese we lost communication with them for almost 2 months to look for other manufacturers. Which would have been bad because we're really happy with the quality we got from them and stuff. And on the other,
and are they the ones who did your first book?
Yes.
So that's a great book.
Yeah. So we didn't want to mess with something that was working well. So, but thankfully that's all been resolved since then. And now we're in the middle. So because of that, though, we didn't make the new year like we thought we would. We thought we'd be getting our books. Our books would be on the way by now. Sadly, they're not. So,
Okay. Well, they'll come.
Yeah.
Good things are worth
everything else is pretty much ready to go. It's just books waiting on us. So.
Oh, those damn books.
Yeah.
So cool. So why don't you give us a little sort of last the last year and a half in review? The last time we talked, the Kickstarter was
first
just
Kickstarter.
The first one.
Yeah.
Had just shipped, I think.
I think it hadn't yet. I think
it hadn't shipped yet
because we started, or maybe it was just.
Right.
But
yeah,
no, it hadn't because we were in the second building that we were.
Okay.
So that means that we started.
I don't know what that says about your experience that you can track it time-wise by building, but it sounds like an exciting adventure. That's
how I track time now by moves that we've made. So, but it was we spoke when we were in our second building, and we're now in our fourth building. So the third building is where the Kickstarter got shipped from. The one that we had to run away from. So
it floated away in my head. That's what happened in my head.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So why don't we talk then about from the shipping of that first Kickstarter? I mean, it was a big success, right? And then, so what happened? Sort of tell us what the story is from there. Let's rejoin the Firelock crew as the USS or the HMS. I don't know. The Blood and Plunder continues its sailing adventure.
Right. So we shipped our Kickstarter. Everybody got the Kickstarter. You get that moment where it's like, nobody's played your game yet and it's out. A few people have tried it out. We had really good response at Gen Con, but now people are going to have the book. They're going to have the minis, and it was really well received. And we were really excited about that and encouraged. So we're like, all right, let's go. Let's get in there and let's start making a bunch of new stuff. Right. We actually were hoping to not do a Kickstarter again for a while. Anyway, we were going to do all this new stuff and we were going to have releases planned. And then we realized how much time and work and money goes into all that stuff, which we should have. You figured we learned that the first time. And then we're like, so we sat down and we looked at it. We're like, well, we're going to have to do this all on a Kickstarter to get what we want out, right? Because we want to give it, we want to do it all at once.
Right.
I don't know. I think we just got into that mindset from the first time, right? Just kind of doing it all at once and one kind of thing. Yep. And it does kind of work better that way in a lot of ways. So we started we got all the ideas together and we decided what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of round out the 17th century stuff, right? We're going to add all the important nationalities and factions like the Dutch and the Native Americans. And we've got some other ones in there like Portuguese and Danes and Swedes and all kinds of stuff like that. So we started doing that, started working on the units we wanted to do. We realized that there was no way we could make all those models It's just not going to happen, unfortunately. So we did, but there are a lot of stuff that was kind of the same, like uniformed troops, 17th century uniformed European troops, all pretty much look the same for the most part. They've got some minor detail differences, but we decided to do a blister of soldiers, right? Which is just, guys with matchlock muskets, bandoliers, coats and hats. And, they're kind of your, so they work for your Marines, they work for your ground forces, all that stuff. We wanted to add cavalry units, which are a lot of fun, as well as artillery on field guns. So you've kind of got the full, you've got the full army thing going on, right? We got artillery and cavalry and infantry, and of course sailors and ships and all that other stuff. And so we got that in there. We got the book, something that we ever since the game we did with you guys at Adepticon. And then we did a few conventions after that where we ran some big games, and we realized the game had really good potential for that, and it plays pretty good and picks up fast. But we thought we could get players more involved in that process, so we made a new not really a new version, but more of a some extra rules, an extra layer, a little extra layer of rules for called Army Scale that lets you play. So you guys have played, right? So you've got, instead of having just one force, you basically have multiple, and each one has its own commander. So you build armies, and those armies are called companies, and you field multiple companies, and that's how you play Army Scale. So what's fun about that is that when you're playing multiplayer, each player can control their own force, and there's one general who draws the cards and assigns the cards to different forces. Now, when you activate a company, right, you have a they get one card. And all the units activate at the same time from that company and take that card's activation. So if you have an inexperienced unit and you have a spade, it's going to get one action, or if they're veteran, they're going to get two. You know what I mean? So, and so it really speeds it up, so you can have a ton of minis. We've done it. We've had like 400 minis on the table and played it, and it plays in in under 4 hours. So it's pretty. It plays pretty smooth, and we're really happy with how that's come out.
Cool. That's awesome.
Aside from that, I have the book in front of me. Flipping through it. So we got the campaign, of course, which was mainly developed by Fred. I had very little to do with the campaign, so it's probably going to be very good. So it's mainly Fred Barnard and Nate Zettel did most of the work on that, and Nate's crew over there in the UK, and it's pretty fun.
So what were some of the What were some of the design goals for the campaign? Was it to make connect a bunch of games to give you meaning? Was it to have some RPG elements where things grow and get more experience, or what were you guys shooting for?
Yeah, a little bit of all that. Mainly we wanted something that was simple and that you can didn't have to do a ton of tracking, so you can kind of play it every week and not have to worry about a ton of stuff to track and having specific models all the time. So you could have a small force and grow it into a larger force. It works really well for a grow campaign, right? Or a escalation kind of thing, right? So you start out, and what it focuses on is the commander. Your commander is the one who's going to gain experience and learn abilities, and he's going to have more access to different units and special rules and bigger ships and more cannons and all that stuff as he gains experience. And we set it up so you can kind of fight against anyone else. And we kind of just wanted to make it a little bit of an open campaign where you kind of just take commissions against anyone else. So you could be a Spanish privateer, right? Like a Corsair or a Guardacosta, and take a commission from the English, right? Which that kind of thing happens all the time.
Yeah.
So take a commission from the English to go raid, the French. So you can kind of mix everything together and in a still sort of historical way, but leaves it more open. So you don't have to stick to those, strict nationality guidelines.
I like it. Now, do you improve your guys and your ship?
So your guys, not really, with the exception that you can spend more points if you got them on making them, giving them the upgrades.
Right.
There are a lot of upgrades that units get in this book, right? So like sailors, for example, the sea dogs and the marineros and the marines and all those guys, they have the option of taking like grenades now. They could take muskets. They could take blunderbusses. A few options like that to make them a little more. Because these are things they would have had realistically access to. So we figured we'd put it in there. And that's what some of the new models are in there to represent.
Cool.
Cool.
But your commander himself does change abilities and grow as he goes. But he's the one who's going to change the rules. Aside from that, you don't have like a set force. It's kind of like, you're a pirate captain, let's say, or a privateer captain, and you're going out and you're going to plan an expedition. So you're going to get together and they're all going to go. And that's typically how it went. It wasn't like a crew of guys that were always fighting together. That was sometimes the case, but most of the time it was like, okay, they kind of disbanded once they got into port and the raids were over, and then they reformed the crew and went back out raiding again. So that's pretty much how it plays.
That sounds awesome.
I think it's a lot of fun. The great thing about it is that it's just so easy to pick up and do. I think that's my favorite part about it, and it gives your game some continuity and meaning. So that RPG element, like you said.
Yeah,
that's very cool. So how has the game? So that's some cool, the new stuff you guys have done. How has the game evolved in the last year? Have you been incorporating a lot of feedback from the players? I know you guys have a Q&A up now. Like, what have you kind of, now that it's been in the wild for a while and you've been seeing it used, what's some of the biggest learnings you guys have had?
Some of the biggest learnings, you said? Like,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's really just mainly a lot of little things that we maybe overlooked or didn't quite, or maybe didn't get explained as thoroughly as we would like. I think it's pretty typical stuff for the most part. One of the things we've learned is the way people are playing the game is a little unexpected. So I figured this would be, the crowd is about the same. Like, it's typically the kind of crowd you see playing Saga or Bolt Action. That's for the most part what we get. We do get a lot of people from 40K, which I find really surprising. A lot of Warhammer players.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Which I didn't really expect, honestly, but that's cool. The pirate thing just, draws people in, I suppose. I think that's where we get most of that from. But people are playing this a lot, kind of like we played at Adepticon. A whole bunch of people playing together and, having...
Well, it really lends itself to that kind of thing.
Yeah, more than we thought. Because I think we kind of designed it that way by accident. Because we were mainly playing 100, 200 point games. We tried it all the way up to 600, and it still played okay. And we did play multiplayer a few times, and we're like, yeah, it kind of works multiplayer, but we kind of brushed it off. Typically war games aren't played multiplayer, right? So we didn't. We knew with the ship aspect, people would want to play multiplayer. But most of the multiplayer that's happening is just kind of mostly land-based, kind of with ships as support. So kind of more amphibious games. And that's something we didn't expect, which is part of the reason we did the army scale rules. So you could really do that on kind of a grander scale and play it more efficiently. Because it will bog the game down if you have a lot of players. We played a game. Right. We played a game at our local shop, and then it was pretty massive. It was about 1,000 points aside. And we had 14 players, and some of the players were kind of getting a little over, they were analyzing every possible option on every move with a bunch of units. Right. So, and we were playing with the army scale. It took a little long, it took I think it was about 5 hours to complete, which really for that size of a game is
that's not bad for that,
but it's certainly not what we're accustomed to. The game we played at Adepticon was 700 points. It wasn't that much long. We played it much quicker. And typically the army scale games should go faster. So they should we added a whole bunch of options for when you're playing with more players and different ways to do that because of that. I think that's the main thing that's really surprised me. Aside from the positive response, honestly, we get almost no negative feedback when it comes to the rules, which is great. Great. I was totally ready for that too. I was like, all right, I want to hear what people aren't going to like so we can, maybe do some corrections. Well, but really,
and you know how gamers can be.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So if they're not saying anything bad, that's great.
Yeah. I'm pretty pleased about that. So.
So I noticed you guys put a force builder up on your website, which I find is pretty handy. How did that come to be?
Oh, so Greg Sitter, who runs EasyArmy.com, he has a bunch of used his army builder for Kings of War and Bolt Action, and a bunch of things. It's works really well. Our army building is more intricate, I think, than most. Well, except for Bolt Action. Bolt Action is definitely more intricate. They've got all kinds of rules for that, but definitely than Kings of War. And so we kind of just reached out to him and see if he was interested in doing it, and he set it up for us, which was really awesome of him. And it's always good to just have some kind of, force builder, especially when you're learning the game, and to just kind of sit there and, theorize lists and stuff. Which which war game? If you play war games, you're always doing that on a game you like. So that's kind of,
I love it. I like how there's the artwork built right in, and you can see all the stats and everything. It's a really slick little web-based interface. I like it a lot.
Yeah, we want to do more with it, and it's a little out of date right now. It still doesn't have the newer stuff, but Greg does this for free and out of his, the goodness of his heart. So I'm definitely not going to sit here and rush him on things. But it's we have some more plans for it. We want to add some more stuff, but little by little. I don't want to throw too much at him at one time.
Yeah, that's fair. That's cool. I like it,
especially if he's doing it for free.
Yeah,
right. Very cool.
Now, how about this big giant new ship?
Oh yes, the galleon, of course. Everybody loves the galleon. We'll have it with us at Adepticon, by the way. We might even bring,
sweet.
We might even bring 2 of them. And
well, why wouldn't you? Are you going to have? Here's my question. Now, it's all coming back to me now. That the beautiful booth you had that first year at Gen Con.
Yes.
That when you didn't have a game, but you had the coolest booth in the entire convention.
Well, thank you.
And I don't know. It's credit where credit is due. Are you going to have that awesome booth at Adepticon?
Yes, we had it last year. And we're going to have it again this year.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. We're going to take slightly less space because we realized we were getting more space than we really need. But it's the same. Everything's going to be the same. Just we're in a 10 by 20 booth this year. But it's the same booth. Yeah, we'll be right next to a Table War.
Well, then there's no reason not to take 2 galleons, I would think.
Right, of course. Yeah. We're gonna probably. It's just a matter if I can fit them in the car. That's gonna be the.
Now, do you have 2 that are all painted up?
I do. I have one that I painted, and I have one painted by Adam Horton, who's been painting our ships lately. Who's fantastic. He's really talented. He's on our Facebook fan group, which is Blood and Plunder Buccaneer across the Spanish Main. So it's a good place to go. Man, that's another thing that I'm surprised about this community that we've kind of built.
Oh yeah.
Man, it's a lot of the really talented people together on that Facebook group. It's like the stuff that people post on a regular basis is pretty amazing. Like the terrain that people are making, the ships they're building, some of the rigging and stuff. Man, it's blown me away. It's pretty awesome stuff.
Jeff Engelstein just tweeted out a picture of your rigging.
Yeah, he was impressed by it too.
Yesterday, he was like, "If only he had all the free time in the world."
I'm liking this galleon though. I'm still blown away by this.
That galleon is huge.
So I'm looking at pictures here. This thing is the size of a small, galleon. Really.
It's about 2 feet long, and not counting without the rigging on, it's about just tall on the stern. So
look at all the guns.
Now, point wise. How many smaller ships from the first run of the game does that equal?
Well, you could really go against a light can actually tangle with a galleon really well. And the galleon's only 4 more points than your light frigate. Where the difference comes in is when you have to add all the guns in, right?
It can carry a lot more guns.
Guns. Now, but you're typically, to get all those guns, man, and to get all the guys you need in the galleon, you're going to be playing already a larger point game. And you're typically going to have lesser quality crew for the most part, which is typical of Spaniards, unfortunately. But so if you get like a French or English crew on a frigate, they can hang with it pretty well. We've had some games where the frigate gave the game a good beating. Well,
not to call back to our lost chapter here, but there was definitely a Master and Commander book where a frigate took out a galleon.
There you go. Yeah.
Just saying your historical accuracy here.
Yeah, well, so the frigate is definitely moves much better than the galleon. We can say that for sure. And the thing about
as long as you don't park in front of a broadside from the galleon, you're probably fine.
You don't get raked by it for sure. That's the first time I played a game with a galleon. The first thing some guy does is just sails at it, and a sloop. I got raked. And
someone doesn't know naval combat.
Yeah, I think you might want to read a couple more of those naval fiction books.
Yes.
So that was the galleon's first shot in game.
That was the dream shot for the galleon commander. He's like, yes,
absolutely.
Right. Yeah, you play games for years hoping for that one shot.
Yeah, right.
He rolled 8 crits. 8 crits on. So he just blew it to pieces. Yeah. nothing left.
So you're like, hey, the mechanics successfully model that situation.
Right.
That worked
They
out.
certainly punish idiocy.
Yes.
Right.
So it was destroyed. Yeah, but the sloop. It was a sloop, and it was actually 2 sloops and a brigantine against the galleon at that game. And the other.
Well, then there were still 2 other ships.
2 other ships, and the crew of that sloop mostly escaped because the ship didn't get they didn't get blown up. It just sank. So it had a whole turn to get guys onto longboats to escape.
Oh, good.
And those longboats actually ended up boarding the galleon, but they were not able to secure victory, unfortunately. They all got put to the sword.
That's awesome.
Now, so you've got the way the game works, right? Is each deck of a ship, each deck section can take 2 units or 1 unit?
2 units, right?
2 units. So how many deck sections does the galleon have?
So the galleon has 4 deck sections.
Okay.
And they're all large, so you can easily put over 100 models. I think it was 120 something.
It looks like it. I'm looking at the picture here. It looks massive, dude.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah, and it looks
now.
great.
Is there a way to get below? Is there a way to get below deck on this model, or
so somewhat?
No?
So we experimented with some rules for what we called subsections on our Corvette, which is our laser cut ship, and that was kind of we put that out to see how those worked out, and we've kind of tweaked them since then. And so the galleon has what's called basically treats the lower gun deck. And the same rules apply also for gallery on the galleon, which is the little platform in the back, and the fighting tops. But they just kind of operate slightly differently, but the basic mechanics are the same. Whereas basically part of the crew that's above can operate the guns below, and you could actually set them off the table and have them down there as well. So it basically makes extra room for more crew and have guys below there. So there are options for it, though. Realistically, you're going to be playing a very large game to really need to make full use of those. So it's because we've only had to do it once, and we were playing about 750 points to get it done. But that's really where the galleon shines for the most part. In a typical 200-point game, the galleon is you can do it, you can fit it in there, and really it just becomes a floating fortress with guns on it and lots of men.
Well, that sounds right. That sounds like a galleon should sound.
Yeah. Now the advantage though is that because of its height, is you have to climb to do a boarding on.
Right.
So the defender and they're shooting down at you, so you're going to get safe penalties when they're shooting at you.
Uh-huh.
So it is a very defensible ship. So it is kind of worth
Right.
taking in smaller games, even if you can only put a few guns on it, if that's kind of your plan. So
I feel like once you buy and paint this model, you want it in every game.
You gotta want to use it, yeah.
Yeah, I feel
you
like
want to
that's
probably
gonna be-
put it in your living room. It's a pretty impressive model once it's all.
It is awesome. Yeah, definitely.
Well, it looks beautiful. Is it resin?
It's going to be resin, yes.
That's a lot of resin.
It's going to be hollow actually. So we're gonna we've experimented with some new techniques to make this thing work without costing an arm and a leg. So
cool. And now, so you mentioned the Corvette, right?
Right.
And looking at the Corvette, so the Corvette is actually laser cut wood. That's a departure for you guys. How's that working out?
Yeah, that's a pretty cool. It's a pretty cool kit. That's made by Laser Dreamworks. They make a lot of really nice. They make, in my opinion, absolutely the best laser cut ship models. They do a whole line of Napoleonic ships and some fantasy stuff. But we decided, we should have actual wooden ships, right? So, so for the modeler out there who wants to spend some time building these things up, because it is a bit of work to build these as opposed to.
Well, you do already have Iron Men.
Yes.
So a wooden ship seems like it would be a good compliment.
You're right.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. So you've got more ships so I thought briefly before I went back onto the website and started looking again, I thought you were like still working with the 3 basic ships from the first Kickstarter and then the 3 new ships from the second Kickstarter, but you've actually continued to develop
somehow
ships. You've got the Corvette and the Bark, right?
Yeah, so the Bark kind of came out of nowhere. That was the fun thing about the Bark is that it was actually the first ship we ever made. It looked nothing like it looks now. We totally reworked it. But it was the first ship we made, just kind of as a proof of concept. But it was we went back to the drawing board on it because we just, our sculptor had finished, Kickstarter ships a little bit earlier than I anticipated. So I told him, hey, you want to make another ship? I've had the stats for the ships around, and we can just kind of throw it out there. and he just kind of and he literally made the thing like in a week, and then we had it ready. I was like, well, why don't we just sell it and put it out there? So we don't even have the packaging for it yet. We sell it in just a cardboard box right now. So so it's not in most stores. It's in any store that orders direct from us can get it, but we're waiting on the packaging to arrive for that still. So that's
well, I think
how new that is.
I think your marketing is spot on with it is a sturdy, unromantic vessel.
Yep,
it is sturdy.
I want one. Vessel. I want one right now.
It is. It's a typical. It's just like your little typical, commerce ship, coastal commerce kind of ship, right? So in Buccaneers, a coaster. Not exactly the kind of thing you want to cross the Atlantic in, but it's suitable as a small man of war or pirate ship. And the main thing I wanted to do with that, though, is I wanted to have the sloop was supposed to be really like in my mind when I was designing it, I wanted the sloop to be more affordable. But the amount of resin it ended up using and stuff, the design that I had on it was not, it's still about $60, which is not bad for that sort of model with what you get, I think. But definitely not
absolutely.
It's definitely not in my mind a really low entry point where you kind of
a starter,
right? Where you can kind of just buy in without having to worry about it,
Right.
So if we did one that so if you look at the bark model, it doesn't have the capping underneath. It's kind of a thinner, less. It just uses much less resin.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, but $35 that's a great price for a big vehicle in a miniatures game.
Exactly, and that's what we were going for. I wanted something that was accessibility has always been something that is important to us here. So we wanted to make sure we had something a little more accessible for people to get into the game. So the bark was an important addition to the line, I think.
And it also sounds historically that it's something that really needed to be part of the for the line also.
Yeah. When Morgan invades pretty much anywhere he went, that's probably the most common vessel. That and the sloop was probably the most common vessel you'd see, as well as the piraguas, which we have in the Kickstarter now as well. And I almost forgot. I almost forgot since the last time we've spoken that we do have some other new stuff too. Like we added the card deck that has all the unit cards for everything with all the options.
Oh, I'm holding one in my hand right now.
Yeah, some new factions and like Spanish.
Yeah, so tell me about the new factions. I'm always excited to hear about new factions. So give us the high level. Who's new since last we chatted?
So since last we chatted, that's available right now. You've got Spanish Corsairs, which are basically like your elite Spaniards. These are privateers from Spain. They're given license to operate in the New World, and they're more on the level with the French Buccaneers and English Buccaneers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got for the French, we added two new ones. We added, since they were behind one from the Kickstarter, we gave them the Caribbean Militia, which is now one of my favorites to play. They're all kinds of sneaky, run around. They get a free move once a turn. You could give it to somebody. So after you jump out of fire, you can jump back in some. And they have plug bayonets, which is a lot of fun. And then we've got the Chasseurs, who are basically the hunters of Hispaniola. All the buccaneers. They're like they would have these little communities out in the woods, right? And they get attacked by the Spanish all the time. It's kind of more like. They're kind of more like a pirate crew when they're not pirating and they're just doing their hunting thing in between. So they're pretty cool too. Then you've got, on the English, you've got the pirate hunters. So this is post Henry Morgan's raid on Panama, where Morgan he's kind of moved up in the world. He's governor at one point of Jamaica. He's raiding in all his old compatriots. So he's sending out these kind of mixed vessels of old privateers and buccaneers and Navy sailors and militia, and they're hunting down pirates and privateers and buccaneers that are operating, and even though they're not supposed to be. They're a pretty fun faction. They're kind of the precursor to the English Navy, which is coming in the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's those are the
That's a lot of cool stuff.
So roughly, you've nationalities wise, you've got 4, right? If you include the
I almost forgot.
On a line.
I almost forgot the logbook cutters. How can I forget the logbook cutters? They have the so they're basically the other version of pirates on not pirating. They are they go and chop down. They poach trees from the Spanish. that are very valuable because of the dice, and they have but because they're kind of in these encampments and they're poaching, the Spanish occasionally attack them, but sometimes they attack the Spanish, their old ways. So when they're attacking, they function identical to typical buccaneer crews. But if they get attacked, they're probably being caught unprepared. So you have a chart you have to roll on to see what state they're in. They could be unloaded with their weapons. They could just be like, ready for these guys, and they get some extra actions, or they could be drunk. So they could be drunk and they start the game drunk and they're stuck that way. So sorry, but I almost forgot those, and those are a favorite. So I don't know how I could have forgotten. But carry on with your question.
Now, aren't there some new ones coming from the new Kickstarter? Right?
We've got a ton coming in the new Kickstarter. Just pull out my my pre-version of the book here and look through them. So we've got 2 new nationalities. We've got the Dutch and the Native Americans. Okay, and then the underline expanded to also include some minor factions, right? So that's going to be we're going to have an actual pirate faction, which is one thing we didn't have. So these are early pirates operating. They're the first.
I always felt like this was the faction you needed to have.
Yes,
so I'm very excited to see there's actual pirates.
So I wanted to do it from the beginning. I wanted to have them in there because they were operating in the 17th century. There were actual pirates. Now, don't get me wrong.
Right.
It's important to note that pretty much everybody who's not militia currently in the game is a pirate, despite despite any pretense otherwise. But they are definitely all pirates at one point or another. So, despite the fact that they may operate legally on occasion.
But some people still self-identified as their nationality, even though they operated as pirates.
Exactly. Yes.
But now these are the guys who really, because there were groups of pirates who really wanted to start their own country, right? They're free, like they're basically libertarian. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, they're just like, no, you forget. They drop all pretense and they're like, we're gonna go after whoever. We just gotta survive, right?
Right.
And the chief of which was the most famous of these guys during this period was a guy called Jean Hamlin. And his ship was called Le Trompeau, or the Trickster. I can't say any French words, but the Trickster. And he was actually hunted down at one point, and he was given sanctuary by the Danish governor. And so the Danish island of St. Thomas is prominent because it was like the bastion for the pirates. It was like the safe harbor for them. The Danes, no matter who you were, as long as you're bringing trade goods in, you're good with it. So, but his story is really interesting. I don't want to get into it too much and give too much away. But
spoilers.
Not like you can't go find out on your own anyway. But it's not like we wrote anything.
Go find a history book.
It is hard to find a lot of this stuff, though. So
I don't doubt it.
We're very fortunate to have Mr. Benison Little, who has done an excellent job on this book. But there's a lot of there's definitely a ton of history here, and the stories are just really cool. Cool. So we can go through. I'll try to go through these factions real quick. The new ones. So the Spanish factions are the militia, guardacostas, and corsairs, all of which we have now. But the new ones are Armada de Barlovento, which is the windward Spanish naval fleet. It also kind of includes the frutas, which protected the galleons, right? Then we have tercios, which are Spanish regulars in the New World, right? The Spanish regiments of regular troops. And this is a really fun one, the Austin Privateers. So these are Austin Privateers they're from the Spanish Netherlands. So they're a mix of Dutch and Spanish. And they're given very similar to the Corsairs, and they're given license to sail from Europe to fight in the New World. Now, there's very few of them operating in the New World, but they were so cool that we had to do it. So they're, and that covers the Spanish. Now, each of these things also has some new options. Like the Spanish have some guerrilla fighter options, where you can take larger groups of milicianos indios and lanceros and guys like that. So it's more of a guerrilla fighting force, and it's a lot of fun.
Cool.
And cool. So for the English, we're gonna now in the English and the French and the Dutch list, we start to move the thing around a little bit. So we have the English Caribbean militia as well as the North American militia. So all the colonies in New England and South Carolina and all those areas in Virginia and all that all get covered, as well as the First French and Indian War, which we'll get into in a bit. You have the Buccaneers, of course, pirates, which we talked about, and then the one that everybody's excited about is the English Royal Navy. That's we get lots of requests for that one. Expeditionary forces, which make up regular troops, and And that covers it for the English. For those, let's switch over to French. So again, French, Caribbean, and Canadian militias, as well as Canadian privateers who operated a little differently. French buccaneers, chasseurs, Royal Navy, of course, again, and the expeditionary forces one more time, which are their regulars. So, and then, so the Dutch have only a few, but they're all the important ones. We've got privateers, Navy, North American, and Caribbean militia. Now, the Native Americans, this was a hard one to do because there's so many groups, and it's hard to peg them all. But I wanted to give as much character and as much individuality as possible. So the models that we have are really appropriate for the Caribbean and South America and stuff like that. But we're hoping to do some models very soon for North America as well. So for the Native Americans, we have the Carib, which are known as the Kalinago now, the Darien, which are the Kuna, Caribbean and South American tribes, which kind of covers the rest of the ones in that region. And then we've got northeastern woodland tribes. Then we've got the Iroquois, the Wabanaki, the southeastern woodland tribes, and the Westos.
That's awesome.
And
wow, the game has really expanded. So you guys have like
huge.
You got to be getting to near double, right? In number of factions, it feels like.
Much. I think we have almost quadrupled it. If I'm not, if I remember right. And then I'll just so I don't take too long here. The unaligned and factions are pirates, Portuguese banderantes, Brazilian militia and tercios, Swedish militia, Danes, Brandenburg privateers, and of course, Brethren of the Coast, logwood cutters, and the Black Caribs, and Scottish militia. And the Black Caribs are what most people know as Maroons. At that time, they were called the Black Caribs.
Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah.
So this is exciting. So lots of cool stuff coming out for Blood and Plunder. Fantastic stuff. When do you think when's this going to actually start shipping? I know you mentioned some things are running a little bit late, and it's looking like the next month or so. When do you think people are seeing it in their favorite online and local stores?
So in stores, in June or July, depending on how fast we can. It depends on how soon we can get it. So I'm hoping we can start shipping early in May. I'm trying to be optimistic, but then hopefully I can make it happen. And I mean, we're ready to go as soon as they come back online and we can get the thing printed and shipped. So
awesome.
It's just a matter of how soon we can get those books in here. As soon as we get those books in, we can start sending stuff out.
Right.
So
awesome. And Mike, which cons are you guys going to be at this year so people can kind of try to track you down if they're going to be going to some of the cons this spring or summer?
Cool. So we're going to go to Adepticon for sure, as you know.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
We do all the cons that happen in Florida that we're aware of, which includes Recon coming up in, I think it's like April or May. We just came back from Rapier Con. That was a lot of fun. We're going to do Hurricane, which is the same people who do Con a little later in the year.
Yep.
They're very ambitious. They two a year. We're going to be at Historicon. We're going to be at Gen Con with the War Store. And we're going to be at a few others. We've got a bunch of other ones that we're kind of looking at right now. And we are in the process of finalizing a con list, which we're going to have done this month at some point. But we're going to have that on our website. We're going to post that as an article on the website and on our Facebook pages and everywhere else because we haven't been great about that. We kind of end up going to cons spur of the moment a lot of times. But this year we're doing we're trying to do a little better.
Promote it a little bit.
Yeah, so we're trying to.
That seems smart.
Warning, yeah. So most of the cons we went to last year, really most of us here hadn't really gone to any cons before, with the exception of Gen Con. So a few of you guys would go to Gen Con regularly, and we weren't aware of a lot of the cons, honestly. Kind of figuring it out as we went. But this year we're a little more prepared. We've got a really long list, but our list is too big, so we're trying to pare it down. We're trying to see. We're doing about a con a month right now. So
that's a pretty aggressive schedule.
Wow, that's very aggressive.
So since it's such an aggressive schedule, you guys are always moving around and deciding where to go. Where online should people go to make sure they got the latest news on what you guys at Firelock and what's new for Blood and Plunder?
The best place and the fastest place to get the information is because someone normally beats us to the punch is on Facebook. So our official Facebook page, the Blood and Plunder, Buccaneer Across the Spanish-made fan site, and of course our website will have all the information as well. And we try to put all that information on the Kickstarter page as well. So if you're just following us on Kickstarter, you'll be able to find it there. We always put stuff there that's relevant. Cool. So it will be It will all be posted up there once we get it all sorted out.
Cool. Is there anything coming up, Mike, that I know you're right in the process right now of fulfilling and you're waiting for that book? Is any hints of things to come in the future that you guys are kind of looking forward to next?
Yeah, so there's quite a few things. First, I want to plug our tournament at Adepticon, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
We kind of threw it together last minute, unfortunately, but the good folks at Adepticon worked with us. So Saturday morning, 10 to 4, if you're at Adepticon, we will have a 100-point tournament, and it's beginner friendly. We're going to have tons of prize support because we like to do that. Anytime we're involved with a tournament, we normally just let people. What we're going to do is, no matter what you place, you're going to get something, because we just kind of have a big table full of product, and you can just walk up and grab what you want in order of how you place in the tournament, right? So worst case scenario, you're going to get a blister a unit blister or something along those lines. But coming down the pike, to answer your question now, sorry.
No, that's coming. That counts as coming down the pike,
right,
too.
So yeah, it's in the future. So
right.
So we're gonna kind of branch out and do something a little different. If you were at our Gen Con booth, our first Gen Con show, we had a little dice game called Scurvy Dice, right? And we've been just really distracted with a bunch of other stuff, and the designer of that game has been infinitely patient with us. But this year we've pledged that we're going to get it out. We're going to do it because it's a really cool little dice game. It's a lot of fun. It's quick. It's good. You got a lot of little choices to make, lots of little tactics, and it's a trip. So we got it out this year. I think you can probably expect a Kickstarter for that this summer. Just don't want to do it until we get everything shipped out. Once we get everything shipped out, then we can kind of start looking at that. So that's going to be the next thing. And
cool.
If you've seen the previews that we've posted on our Kickstarter page and on Facebook, we've got a bunch of line drawings of some units that we put in the book that weren't in the Kickstarter, and there's quite a few of them. So a lot more. This book is gonna be a what's coming guide from us as well. Once it comes out, so there's gonna be a lot of new units that start dropping. We've got stuff like pikemen, right? With armor and stuff. We've got some Spanish Lancer cavalry, which is really fun.
Cool.
We got some North American specific troops, Corps de Bois and Rangers, or early Rangers, and things of that nature. So we've got a really cool one too is the Buccaneers, who are the wives of the Buccaneers, manage their affairs while they're out, and are supposedly just as skilled with the musket as their husbands are. So they are in there as an option for the French militia, and the concept art for those is just awesome. I can't wait to see them all.
That's great.
They get that. Yeah,
cool.
They're literally like they look like kind of like peasant women with muskets. It's awesome. It's can't be that. So it's there's a lot of cool stuff coming down, and I'm just excited to get working on it. And of course, I can't forget to mention, because I'll get yelled at later, is we are starting to gear up for some plastic sprue kits. So we're starting to work on that. So you're going to have we're going to start with a few of the current options we have now, with some more options in the spruce and different weapons and stuff like that. And that's kind of gearing us up towards our next big expansion, which is the first half of the 18th century, which is going to be really focused on characters like Blackbeard and Jack Rackham, Embody, and Mary Read, and all those famous pirates that everybody knows about from the golden, quote unquote golden age, are going to be
quote unquote
are going to be
message received.
Yes, they're going to be a part of the game, as well as a nice big the next big ship we're going to do, which is going to be a frigate, a full size frigate that'll work wonderfully as a Queen Anne's Revenge. So
nice.
So that's
very cool.
So we're currently those are the things that we are actively working on. And there's some other stuff too, some really exciting stuff that I would love to tell you about, but I won't. So.
But he can't.
Well, as a pirate, he has to keep some secrets.
So what you want to do then is track Mike down at one of these events and beg him.
Or give him some grog.
As long as I'm not being recorded, I'll spill the beans on everything.
Oh, excellent. See,
so well, there you go.
I'll just say
we have to go. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
right.
I'll just say you lied if you talk about it to anybody. I didn't say
right, exactly. We made it up. It's completely fictitious.
Exactly.
Well, Mike, thank you so much.
Wait, I have one more question. Did you get to go over to Ireland to do Beasts of War? I'm looking at the picture here. Yes, cool. See there, that's another indication of how well you're doing.
That was really cool. We enjoyed that a lot. Those guys are awesome. Had a lot of fun with them. Lloyd.
You've got an awesome table there and everything. Yeah. Did you ship that table over?
We brought it with us on the plane. Well, so we had a smaller table that was there. If you see a smaller table with like a little river on it and it's got like a little house and some palm trees, that was our table that we brought. So we dragged that thing with us. We built it so that it would fold into a like 3 foot by 2 foot box. Very, very big, very heavy box that very much confused airport staff. That looked very suspicious, but we were able to get it across the ocean no problem, despite being thoroughly checked. But that was pretty cool. But they built that table. They have some pretty cool techniques for how to do it. It's definitely worth doing the backstage thing to look at how they did that. They basically got like furniture foam and pluck it away. And then and it's cool because you could stick stuff in it and it could break apart and everything. Like one of them had a big rip in it, but you won't see it because it all just goes back together. So it's pretty cool. It's a really impressive tape. A lot of fun.
That is now like several of our favorite games and game people have gone over to do the Beasts of War, like a full week of their game. Mm-hmm. Were you there for like a week and just playing these games and videotaping the plays like over and over again? It sounds like a really cool week.
Yes, we literally just filmed games for a week straight for like 10 hours a day. It was intense, but it was a lot of fun. And then Lloyd was nice enough after we had like one kind of half day. He was nice enough to show us around some of the touristy sites. We got to see some places where they filmed some Game of Thrones stuff and things like that. So it was kind of awesome. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. That is cool.
Very cool. Now I got to go watch.
All right, Russ, you may. Right. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm watching Beast of War now.
Where's the backstage videos? I can't.
I don't know. There's like a backstage link on the site. I'm sure.
There's a whole backstage. I'll teach you Beast of War later, Craig. Anyway, well, Mike, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here between Beast of War recordings. We really appreciate it.
Hey,
and thanks for giving us the lowdown on what's coming down and how to find more stuff about your good works. And we'll look forward to seeing you at Adepticon coming up.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot, guys. It's been awesome. I always love coming on here with you guys. It's always fun.
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, total fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire.
Hey everyone, this is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can follow me over on Twitter at Nicole Wakeland. Our shout out is to all of our wonderful supporters over at Patreon. Head to patreon.com/the D6Generation and you too can support the show. So I found this Twitter account that I've been following for I don't even know how long. It's been a while. And somehow it came up when I was talking to Russ and he had not followed this Twitter account and he was somewhat hysterical laughing at this. So it's called Sage Advice D&D and it's exactly what you think. It's D&D advice. And the description says Dungeons and Dragons questions answered by designers. So, okay, fine. I'm like, that's kind of cool. I'll follow that. That sounds interesting. But what the funny thing was I was telling Russ about this and I said, Russ, have you ever followed this particular Twitter account? He's like, no, what's this? And I tell him about the account. I said, it says that it's designers. I don't know that it is or isn't. I have no reason to believe it's not. But then I started reading him some of the questions that these guys get asked and they decide to answer. And what was hilarious is Russ is immediately answering these questions in this sort of like, duh, of course kind of thing. And it has some pretty obscure questions in there. And it has some really detailed questions. Like this one is, if a creature is heavily obscured and you're in melee with it, what is the ruling? Can you recommend any materials that will give insight into, I can't even say this, Githyanki societies? There's all the, and I start reading these, and immediately Russ has comebacks for every single one. Like, without a doubt, he's like, well, because of page 6, paragraph 7, section 5, the answer to that question would be, he has answers to all of it. And then there were some pretty funny ones. There was one where they were asking about, like, if you're invisible or not, there was a question about asking if one certain kind of thing can poop, and Russ is like, of course they can poop. The answers are great because they really do answer these questions. The questions are kind of neat too, and from a DM point of view, they were kind of fun. So I had fun checking out this little Twitter account, and if you're a D&D player, I think you probably will too. I know Russ is now totally enamored with it and was just reading down through the questions that they have answered and been asked over time, and thinking it was hilarious. But still, my favorite part was watching Russ when I started reading these and not even understanding what some of these questions even meant, and him, for every single one, immediately he had a comeback where either he thought it was a very thoughtful and well-phrased question about something that has always bothered him, or he had that total nerd, like, duh, of course this is the answer. So if you're a D&D guy and you aren't, and you're on Twitter and you haven't looked at Sage Advice DND, check it out because it's a heck of a lot of fun.
You're listening to the Dice Tower Network at Dicetowernetwork.com. More fun than Merchant of Venus. Wait, what?
Who writes these? Hey, welcome back. And so, as you've probably already heard us talking about all episode, we're all excited about Adepticon, and we've got this big game planned, of course, with Firelock and Mike. And, of course, we've got our big game night planned for Sunday. And we thought, well, you know what? We should probably talk about that a little bit more and ask somebody from the Adepticon Council if they could join us. And we are honored to have no less a personage than Hank Edley of the Council with us tonight. So thank you, Hank, for making time with very short notice to come join us.
Well, thanks for having me.
This is very exciting. I would say Hank is the big kahuna, Craig. Is that fair? The big
he's certainly the big kahuna for us.
Exactly. So Hank, thanks for joining us, and thanks for running and being involved with Adepticon for so long. Hank, when did you start with Adepticon? When did that all happen?
Well, I mean, Adepticon started back in 2003. First year, I was actually an attendee. Matt Weeks and Jeff Chua originally started it, and I got involved year 2, and we've been going now into our 16th year.
That's crazy, right? I love the summary.
Awesome.
I love the summary on your website. You've gone from 110 people in around 2002 to almost you're closing in on 4,000 here, Hank. It's getting pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think you might see us hit that number this year.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And the whole thing just goes from strength to strength year after year. Constantly moving venues because you keep outgrowing wherever you land.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully.
Go ahead, Hank.
I mean, hopefully we're here at the Schaumburg Convention Center for a while yet to come. It's such a nice venue to be at, and
it's beautiful.
Well, it's super nice, and of course, over the years, Adepticon has really become well known as, if not the premier, certainly one of the top premier miniature gaming convention.
It's the premier. So, it is the premiere.
I think so.
Mike, how did you get involved with Adepticon, and what attracted you guys to start going there?
Well, I had heard about Adepticon before, but I didn't really do any shows before Firelock. So what happened was basically a lot of guys who were backing and stuff, they were messaging me and telling me, hey, you guys going to be at Adepticon? You guys got to be at Adepticon. So I was like, let's look into Adepticon. And so we went last year. And it was amazing. It's definitely the con I have enjoyed the most, especially the larger cons. I do like a lot of the smaller cons that we do locally and stuff, but it's a whole different ball game compared to that. It's really well run. I mean, it was just awesome. I remember just walking through the halls and there's just games going on all over the place, and I was like, this is a really cool convention.
I think that is what makes Adepticon special, Hank, is that you guys run it so precisely. I mean, the tournaments, the events, everything just runs on time like clockwork. What would you describe as being sort of your guys' secret to success? How have you kept sort of those core tenets of Adepticon still there as the con's grown so much?
What can I say, Matt Weeks? No. I mean, I think we've kept it focused, right? And so, all of us, I started back miniature gaming when I was a young teenager, and we've kept the focus squarely on sort of playing tabletop games. We haven't tried to really branch out, into a kind of a general convention. We just focused in on miniature games, and I think there's something special when you get, several thousand people under one roof that have the same sort of interest. Be it, whatever hobby they have, there's just a special energy when you're focused like that. So we obviously have like the hobby seminar stuff. That's kind of become kind of a convention within a convention. And we got some board gaming stuff going on that you guys have been involved with. But by and large, it's the focus is on people playing, miniature games and tabletop events mainly.
Yeah, that's awesome. The other thing that in my mind always just is a highlight is you've also done a really great job of promoting all aspects of the hobby. So you mentioned the painting seminars, but also the team tournament, and particularly the amount of insane. And I will say insane, but it's a lovingly said insane. The amount of insane effort that goes into these team displays, the team themes, the thought that goes into the team displays, and then even the dressed in costumes that oftentimes people wear just to bring it all home is just amazing. Is that something you guys expected to happen? Is it just was it a happy happenstance? And how do you keep fostering that sort of energy?
Well, I mean, the team format, I think, even across all events now at Adepticon, you'll probably find some sort of team format, be it 40K or Age of Sigmar or War Machine or, Guild Ball. It's one of the things that's really special about Adepticon, I think. Not everybody can be a top-tier competitive player, right? Nor is that in our always in everybody's interest. But, when you're 18 years old and you're in college and you're playing your tabletop games and you kind of grow up, you get a family, maybe you got a different career, you move away, you still have those same buddies, and Adepticon is kind of one of those spots that you can come back once a year. We get a ton of them, people that are kind of reconnect at Adepticon, and they play in the team tournament. And it's something you can do remotely. It's something you can get together with your buddies once a week or once a month even to prepare for, and it's a really good time.
That's awesome.
It absolutely is. And Russ is right. It's the spirit and the energy that goes into all those different events, the focus and the commitment on the modeling and the display bases and everything. It really makes it kind of one of my favorite events all year long in any convention or locally, just because of the creativity that you see year after year. And the excitement. You don't get that kind of excitement even at a really competitive tournament. Everybody's so focused on, one aspect of it. And yet these team tournaments at Adepticon are just so much fun. Just to walk amongst the tables, it's really a highlight.
Well, and it really gives teams kind of, different areas they can focus on. Like if you just want to go after the Headhunter Award or the Team Spirit Award, or maybe for a particular faction in the 40K universe, you can just try and focus in on that. Or if you just want to come and, roll some dice, there's a lot of guys that just do that too. So it's this year is going to be the biggest team tournament we've ever ran.
Wow. Oh, nice.
I think we're, over 128 teams of 4 players.
Wow. Yeah.
So might even be pushing 130 now.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive math.
That's a lot of players in one tournament, right? When you think about it that way, because, for those who aren't familiar, Hank, you want to give people a high level sort of what the team format is like. It's, 4 players playing at once, right?
Yeah. So, you form a team of 4. and you play 2 versus 2. So, a team gets matched up against another team. You play 2 versus 2. You have a captain. Over the course of the event, you will play with each of your teammates. And then there's a couple of captain choices where you can kind of select the pairings for your side. Missions, involve sort of team dynamics. You're familiar with the table quarter mission. So in the team format, you're going to score that table quarter mission if you have one of your units and one of your teammates' units in that table quarter, that sort of thing. So it really rewards teamwork and working together with your teammate, obviously. And then, you have a number of other sort of awards around it. You get points for headhunters and taking out HQs. There's always coming up with your team background and paint schemes, having unified paint schemes.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, it's awesome. And again, it's hard to overstate the displays and the amount of detail and background material and scrolls, and it's awesome. It's really quite, and I've gotten to the point now where, as you say, Hank, I go to Adepticon partly to cover it, part to just to experience it. I roll some dice and stuff, play a bunch of casual games, but I'm really there to see the passion, because it is crazy. What are some of the exciting things? How has it evolved recently, and what are you guys really looking to bring and change in 2018? What are going to be some of the highlights in 2018 you're looking forward to seeing how they work out?
Well, Fantasy Flight's going to release Star Wars Legion at Adepticon.
That's exciting.
Wow, so that's an interesting partnership.
Cool.
2 years in a row now, right?
Yeah, so they're bringing that game. There's a lot of excitement around it. I don't know. Hopefully, you guys have seen some of the reviews and some of the models and some of the gameplay.
Yeah.
But
have you seen an ATST in person yet? Because that thing is bigger than a Titan in GW worlds. Right.
I actually have one in my hands.
Nice. Awesome. Is it as big as it looks? Because the size pictures look crazy. Like, it looks like...
Yeah, it's huge.
It's awesome.
It's
now,
massive, and it is a really well done model kit. I mean, the quality of that kit is it's pretty top notch.
Now, out of curiosity, Hank, if you can reveal a couple things, is the FFG presence there going to be more like Rune Wars last year, where the starter box was available, but it wasn't really available to purchase, or more like when they did Dust, where they had a whole storefront there and they were pushing the whole line?
So Legion becomes available at retailers, I believe, Wednesday at midnight or whatever it releases. There'll be scores of Legion available for purchase at Adepticon through all of our vendors.
Cool.
And there'll be some special stuff coming. I'm working with Fantasy Flight to make sure that the Adepticon launch event is special, and we got news coming out. Those events are full up, but we've done something kind of unique with those events, and that is we have Dave Pauls and Damon Drescher teaching. If you're familiar with those two, both are multi-Golden Demon winning painters, but they're doing kind of a how to get your battle box on the table, doing a couple seminars. We're doing a couple hobby kickstart events with Dave Taylor, and Fantasy Flight staffing it with Alex Davies, the designer of the game. And then we're doing a bunch of events where, it's basically a box set skirmish. Break out your box set, learn the rules, play some games, roll some dice. And then we actually, going back to the team format, we put together kind of a combined assault event where you get to partner with your buddy. You put your two box sets together and you play against another pairing. So.
Wow, that's a cool push.
Cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's cool. I think that's one of the things that also makes Adepticon pretty special is the not only are all the well-established miniature games represented there, and there's all kinds of great formats and ways to enjoy them, and you're sure to see other players there, but also these new games are launching, and you guys have now established a nice relationship with Fantasy Flight, but also there's a lot of other smaller folks there. Firelock was there showing things off, and other companies like them. I mean, it's a great way to see and get to experience other new miniature games as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, every year we seem to bring in a new company. Steamforge is another one of them that's come to Adepticon with Guild Ball in past years, and this year they're going to be launching God Tier, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of exciting news around that game, as well as their existing kind of Guild Ball world. And then we have Infinity with Corvus Belli. They're coming. They have a new game that they're going to be bringing, and it just seems like the hobby's exploded, right, between miniature games and tabletop board games. It's a great time to be a hobbyist.
That's awesome. Mike, how was the Adepticon experience for Firelock for you guys? What was your takeaway from last year's sort of advent?
Oh, it was great. We're definitely the primary takeaway is that we're definitely going to be there for as long as we exist, probably. So awesome. It was great. I mean, we suck, as I'm sure you know well, because we are always late on everything, because we're always struggling to catch up with ourselves. So we're like coming in last minute, like, please, can we have a spot? And hey, we'd like to do some events. So
right.
You guys over at Adepticon have just been awesome in facilitating everything. And, you make us definitely feel like we want to be there. So that's like you want us to be there. And, it's definitely been one of the best experiences I've had, for sure, by far.
What's the response? Would you say that because of the atmosphere and the people that it draws, that it's kind of like unique for trying to push your kind of product?
Definitely. Yeah. Because it is.
I mean, it's like your target market just walking right up. Yeah.
Right. It's primarily war games, and it's tabletop games in general, but primarily war games is the the gist I get from it, and it's so everybody there is interested in what you've got to sell. It's not a risk or a gamble like some other shows where it's kind of like, am I going to hit the right crowd here? I know I'm getting that right crowd there. So if we've got if you've got a war game and people want to check it out and get into it, I mean, Adepticon is the place to go for that sort of thing, for sure, if you're a vendor or even a player.
Awesome. Now, last year, I know you were super busy with your booth and everything, and the big battle that we did. Were you able to check out any of the other parts of the con?
Very little, unfortunately. The little bit I did see, though, made me wish I had more time. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I'm trying to bring more people with me this time so I can, maybe check out some more. So we need to sell some more pirates so that I can hire more staff. So that I can
that cons. Seems like a very altruistic goal.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly. So I could go to this show and participate in some of the stuff. We share space, sort of, not really, but we're neighbors with Table War, and Todd and Doug of Table War. They cover each other so they could go play in the events. And I got to figure that one out.
Yeah,
right.
So
there's a level of coordination there that most people can't quite work out.
Yeah, I feel like if I leave, the booth will just be on fire the second I'm gone. So.
Right.
Now, Russ, how about what are you looking forward to, Russ? What makes this con special for you as a gamer?
Well, we talked about the teams already, and I love that part of it. But this kind of goes to a question I had for Hank, actually. So I like to play in the miniature events. So what I love about Adepticon is like Rune Wars, right? So Craig and I really are enjoying Rune Wars. Much to our surprise, honestly, throughout the course of the year, we become addicted to this silly game. And what I like about Adepticon, Hank, is I can going there, I know there are Rune Wars events. It just goes without saying, even though, quite frankly, Rune Wars is not like a massive. You can't walk into most gaming stores and see people playing it while it's on the shelves.
Locally.
Right. So Hank, how do you guys decide what game is it? Something as long as someone says, "Hey, can I run this event at Adepticon?" Or are you guys just like yes? I mean, what kind of process do you have there? If someone wants to run a game there, how does that work?
Well, I mean, in the past we've had kind of open submission. We publish a form that people can submit events. As we moved into this venue, we thought, we'd never fill it, right? We always think of that when we move into a new facility, and but we're starting to push the boundaries of space, and so we're starting to have to be a little bit more selective. But if somebody's passionate about wanting to run something and reaches out and contacts us and shows that kind of hobby passion, we're open to providing some tables and seeing how something will go, right? I mean, like you said, there's about any kind of miniature game that you could want to play at Adepticon, you'll find it. And hey, my nephews really love Ruin Wars too, Russ. So perhaps you can get a game in with them.
Yeah, there we go. I'll take all comers, Hank. But what I also like too is this. The other thing is it feels like the classics never go out of style at Adepticon. So for example, the other fun thing about walking around is you'll see like Epic being played, or these other games, Firestorm Armada or whatever is just being played everywhere. So you can walk around and see these games, even if they're small events, really focused. So I love the fact that, if it's a miniature game or ever been one, it's kind of like there's people there passionately doing it, which is just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's people running Old Hammer themed events, right? And Necromunda's big and back this year, but for the last 10 years, we've been running Necromunda events.
Blood Bowl never stopped, right?
Yeah, Blood Bowl's never stopped, right? Blood Bowl's still rolling.
Right. Yeah. That is fantastic. So that's what I like, Craig. I like seeing all the different miniature events, all the different venues. I mean, you really get to appreciate the it's just, I think what's most fun to watch at Adepticon is how the hobby's expanded from essentially one company and a few satellite companies trying to imitate their success, which is Games Workshop back in the, when Adepticon started, the early 2000s. And now it's like there's so many great choices, and to see the amount of passion everybody has and the crazy model lines and the paint and you get to see it now in all the games, and it's just really fun. It's just really fun to see that level. And I also like, another thing I love to do, and this is something anybody that follows the D6G feed knows this, I'll just stand in front of the crystal brush painting competition stuff and just take pictures.
And take pictures.
I can just literally spend an entire Saturday just looking at the models and trying to figure out how the heck they painted it like that.
No, and it's cool because I don't think anywhere else you get what the crystal brush is, which is to use a term that we were using heavily last year, like an agnostic painting competition, right? It's not all one company. You see miniatures from every company, and you see sculpts that original sculpts, and I mean I'm sure the giant prize money pouch doesn't hurt any, but the skill that's shown there is just phenomenal. And to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, Russ, one of my favorite things, which is one of my favorite things for almost every con. I mean, at Captain Con that we just had up here, it was the same scenario. I love demoing these games with the guys and gals who design them. I mean, there's very little opportunity outside of the convention circuit for that. And if you're interested in miniatures games, then it's all about Adepticon, because that's what you're going to see. You're going to see games like Blood and Plunder, and you're going to see games like Eden that we discovered and almost got sucked into last year. There's just so many cool games. Relic Blade, like we were saying earlier in the episode, we were watching that, and I think Frostgrave was first at Adepticon as well for me. So I love just walking around, seeing these tables, and being able to just jump right in and do these demos. And these guys are bringing these beautiful little tables, and I mean that it's almost like that's an art form unto itself now, is the demo table, and bringing really nicely painted minis and having that experience. And it's cool because although you can get a wildly diverse experience of doing demos, for instance, like if you look at Gen Con, you go up to a board game and you really don't know how, are they going to be any good? I mean, we know companies that are notoriously bad at demoing and they don't give their people any training. Other companies are really good at it. Miniatures games, especially, there's the designer right there, right? So you've got this guy. Now, that's no guarantee the book's going to make any sense when you get it, because, the guy who invented it is the guy teaching you. But you've got that experience and that energy and that excitement that you cannot feign or train, somebody who's doing it just so they can get a free hotel room. It's a totally different experience to be doing these small scale miniatures demos at Adepticon in particular, because that's really where everybody knows. Well, if you're starting a minis game or you want traction, you want to go to Adepticon, and so everybody's bringing their A game, and it's where everybody wants to make a big splash. So taking advantage of that, to me, is playing every demo that you can find. And I very seldom will walk away from a demo, even if it's a game that doesn't really strike my fancy. It's just neat to be involved in that kind of energy.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another thing that got me, Adepticon's the reason I use an airbrush now. And one of the things that was really fun for me to see, and Hank, I was really excited. I actually saw, you mentioned that you have some, high-level Golden Demon level painting guys now doing tips and tricks on how you can crank out an army really fast. And I was looking at those sessions because now that Adepticon's getting close, I'm saying, ooh, that looks like a fun one. I'm trying to plan my days, and that's awesome, because I love the fact, like Craig, you mentioned, you get to talk to the designers of miniature games and get demos. My first demo of an airbrush was by and I forget the gentleman's name, Hank, I'm sure you know it, the owner of Badger Airbrush. He's there. Yeah, he's showing how to use an airbrush. The guy that freaking runs an airbrush company, right? So that's just fantastic. And he's there. He's passionate. He's showing how cool it is. He's giving you all the tips and tricks on which kinds of brushes you want, and you leave there knowing exactly what you need to get. You're confident it's going to work. Not only is he showing it there, but then there's a bunch of other guys standing around who've done it for years. And they're like, yeah, that's the one you want. And so not only are the experts, but also the painting levels, the painting techniques, the painting tips. Not only in the sessions, but just talking to painters. Just, you'd be standing there complimenting talking to a person next to you saying, wow, that particular piece in the crystal brush thing is amazing. And the guy will be like, oh yeah, that's my piece. Like, oh, well, how did you do it? And he'll tell you. It's like, oh, I did this and I did that. And people love to share it because this is what they're passionate about. So it's just an amazing, that's another thing about it. You don't run into too many people who are too, arrogant or self-possessed. It's really just about
proprietary.
It's really just about sharing the love of the hobby is what Adepticon's managed to capture, which I just think is fantastic. Hank, what else?
Yeah, that hobby.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
That hobby lounge area. I'm not sure, Russ, if you've been down there, but that area has exploded over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And not just the hobby seminar classes, but the instructors will just hang out at those tables and paint. I've walked the floor at 3 a.m. and I'm headed back to my hotel room, and I pass that area and there's still, 25, 30 people in that area painting.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, that's hopping. You've got all the paint. You got everything you need right there, right? It's just racks of paints that you can just use, and you just sit down and as you say, you've got all these amazing painters that are just there, and they're interested in sharing their their expertise. It's just a really cool atmosphere across the board.
Yep.
Hank, is there anything else new for 2018?
What's new?
Well, we got in the evenings, and we got a couple guys on staff that have been big into like trivia, and so we're always looking for some sort of wind down towards the end of the day or end of the weekend, and so we have some trivia events this year around our hobby. So there's a 40K one. There's one around Star Wars. So that's going to be paneled with a professional host, and then teams of you can put together buddies if you think you know the answers to. You can name all the Primarchs, and you can name your match wits on Star Wars trivia with other hobbyists. That event is going on, and
that's awesome. I can guarantee you the Star Wars trivia one's going to get serious. I'm just throwing that out there. right now.
Yeah, I think one of my sons thinks he's pretty good at.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go hardcore on that one. But that's awesome. That reminds me of the old classic, GW
the
Grand
pub
Tournament.
quiz.
Yeah, with the pub
quiz.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And that was a highlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of the GW, design studio guys and, some of the Warhammer Community Live people that are coming over, I think they've helped put together some questions for that. So,
Sweet.
And who knows, maybe
Cool.
we'll put together a team. But, yeah.
Well, that wouldn't really be fair.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Well, that's true. A couple beers in, then.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That sounds like that would be a blast. I mean, I've done one or two of those back in the day, back in our games days, Russ, and those were always fun. And you're right, Hank. There were always studio guys hanging out, whether they were on a team or just kind of hanging out, laughing at you getting answers wrong.
Yep.
And that kind of like lent a whole new kind of excitement to the experience.
Yep. Yeah, those are always popular. We used to run those at our store a long time ago too, and that was always something that people got excited about. Well, Hank, that's fantastic. Is there any other anything else we should mention? Well, one thing Craig and I should mention while we're on the subject is another thing you mentioned, winding down, Hank, and several years ago now you invited us out and said, hey, we're looking at trying to get a little bit of board game love at Adepticon, and would you guys be willing to come out? And so since then, we every Sunday night, sort of the last until really stupidly late, usually around like 2 a.m, we play board games from like 9 p.m. until 2 a.m. at Adepticon, or 8, I guess 8, I don't know, whatever time. Yeah. Whenever we can find the space to start. And it's been a lot of fun because I think people, miniature gaming is a very intense, especially competitive play, very, very intense. And so I think after a long weekend of just really challenging yourselves to be the best you can be on the tabletop, it's kind of nice to just sit down, relax. You're also, with the exception of the team tournament, you're kind of typically one-on-one. So it's kind of nice to sit around, play some more casual board games, kind of relax. That's not to say people don't pull out some hardcore board games too, but it's a lot more. I think we generally see the more casual games get pulled out, the more sort of party-style games. People just relax and have a lot of fun, and we just, we do some silly things, give away some silly prizes, and have a lot of fun. That's one of my favorite parts of the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see everybody over the course of that night.
Yeah, that's great.
They might not stay long because some of them are staggering. Some of them have lost all of their hobby money at the poker tables.
Yes.
But it's eventually almost everyone. It's kind of like it's sort of like high tide. Eventually everybody washes up for a few minutes.
Well, and it's good that you brought that up, Russ, because one of the things we've done is we've actually moved. The board gaming in the past has sort of been in kind of the foyer spaces of the hall, and we've used a coat closet. We're actually putting board gaming all weekend long into its own hall space.
That's awesome.
So over in Schaumburg, you're going to have a dedicated space, and there's going to be a lot of board gaming going on all weekend. But you bring up the wind down event on Sunday night that you guys have been involved with over the years, and one of the things I've noticed is significant others, friends, people will pick up a board game over the weekend. Some of them hang out there all weekend long, but generally it's a good kind of filler in your schedule. And you see that area is getting a lot of use.
That's great.
Exciting. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I think you guys are going to find, I think the other thing that Adepticon's unique for is, the line between miniature game and board game is getting progressively blurry over the years. And so you can imagine Adepticon's a great venue for these board games that have the really high level miniatures in them that are just begging to be painted. Now you've got a venue just chock full of painters, looking for an excuse to paint something new. Maybe they don't want to collect invest in the level of a miniature game, but here you got an $80, $90 board game that has all the bits in it for everybody to play, yet it's still screaming for, 20 or 30 models to be painted. That's very appealing to us miniature gamers,
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Well, that's fantastic. Go ahead, Hank. Sorry.
To that point, we've seen, I think, over the years, board gaming sort of transition into this hybrid board game, miniature game. But I think you're also now seeing miniature gaming sort of, transform itself and take on some board gaming aspects. If you look at like Shadespire, we got a big Grand Clash event, 128 players playing that on Thursday night. It's going to be the largest Shadespire event to date. But
wow.
that game has a lot of board game mechanics to it, but you got some beautiful, Games Workshop models, and you only got to paint 4 or 5 models to participate. So you're seeing that trend, I think. I don't know if you guys are noticing that, but with Fire and God Tier, and you're seeing a lot of these smaller scale skirmish, kind of almost miniature hybrid games.
Yep. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's been happening for a little while, and I think it's only charging full speed ahead now with people like Cool Mini or Not and games like that, and companies like that.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Hank, thank you so much for taking the time out. It's especially getting particularly crazy now as we get closer and closer to Adepticon Day. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here. If folks want to get more information on what's going on at Adepticon and get the most latest up-to-date information, where should they go?
Well, they should go to www.adepticon.org. That's our main website, or look us up on Facebook. A lot of our news gets posted to social media these days, but you'll get the latest and up to the minute sort of updates.
Excellent. I got to go soon. My wife's attacking me with a lightsaber right now. It's very awkward.
And Mike, thank you for all the busy time. I mean, you've got all the stuff that's going on with you, with like Chinese New Year and whatnot.
Yeah. So, if I may, real quick, I would like to actually plug some of our events for Adepticon.
Oh, please do.
Please do.
Yeah. So we've got, of course, on Friday night, right? Didn't mix that up with you guys.
Nope.
We're doing our big game event. Then the following night we're gonna have a big naval battle, right?
Ooh,
Captain, the first time Captain Kidd appears in historical record, fighting against the French.
Will there be boarding actions, Mike?
Oh, of course. Of course. Oh, well, I suppose it's up to the commanders, but as long as you're in command of a ship, you can make that happen. So. Yeah. So, and then of course Sunday afternoon, or rather Sunday morning, I think it starts at 10 a.m. We have our 100-point tournament. So if you're interested in Blood and Plunder and would like to get a bunch of stuff, because we've got a ton of prizes we're just going to give away. So there's plenty of spots open, and it's 100 points, which basically one of our little starter set boxes will give you enough to play. And since the minis are already pre-assembled and based, you can just kind of pass on by the booth and grab a box, show up, and participate in the tournament. So
love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, make sure
to check that out.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Hope to meet a bunch of people listening here over there. So
that'll be fantastic. And Mike, thank you so much for joining us this episode as well and sharing what's up with Firelock as well as what's going on with Adepticon. So if folks want to find out more about Firelock, where should they go on the internet?
They should go to firelockgames.com. That's our main hub of all things Firelock Games and Blood and Plunder and everything else. Also, we're very, very active on Facebook. Our fan group, which is Blood and Plunder, Buccaneer across the Spanish Main, and of course Firelock Games on Facebook. You find us on there, and those will be the main places to reach out and connect with the community.
Excellent. Well, thank you both, gentlemen. Really appreciate it. We're looking forward to seeing both of you at Adepticon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. Always a pleasure.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, likewise.
Bye, guys.
Bow, 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 bow. Bow, 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 bow. Bow, 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 bow. Bow, 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 bow.
This Jever Notice is brought to you by all of our friends over at Patreon, the men, the women, the boys, the girls who keep the show going from one day to the next, keeping you well supplied with mediocre gaming content week in and week out. Did you ever notice how the best laid plans of mice and men can be completely crushed in a moment without any sort of advance warning whatsoever? Have you ever noticed that what you're listening to right now doesn't sound even remotely like what usually you hear at this point in the show? Well, that is because my laptop that included all of my books and pretty much everything that I need to do the podcast is currently dead. 2 days ago, I tried to turn it on after it had already been working most of the day for other household things, and it told me that it no longer had an operating system. I'm told this is a serious problem in a computer, and I didn't really have any way whatsoever to deal with it.
Russ was very helpful. He's in California, so he couldn't do much. My wife went all over the internet, found all sorts of interesting things. None of them helped. And now it is at a repair shop. Hopefully they'll be able to do something, but I don't know. And here we are, and I'm recording on my phone with an app I just downloaded that looks like I'm peeking every word I say. And I'm holding the phone as far away from myself as possible, and it's still showing all kinds of absolute blasting on this little bar. I don't know if it works or not. I have no idea how it's going to sound, and I apologize to you, our listeners, for what you're going through right now. What I was going to talk about in this episode's Did You Ever Notice is keeping track of your painting projects and how annoying it can be when they get ahead of you. I've been very good lately for the past several years, not getting too much ahead of myself with painting projects. And I kind of cheated to get where I am, meaning it was very hard for me for a very long time to not paint everything I had, or at least emotionally to deal with the fact that I had a bunch of stuff that I hadn't painted. And then I decided that nothing that came from Kickstarter counted towards my my backlog of painting projects, because another thing that I realized about Kickstarter is, I'm excited when I sign up and I pay all my money, and then when they come, the excitement is over. That bubble has already burst, and I have absolutely no motivation to paint anything except terrain. I'm always happy to paint terrain, but as far as whole new game systems go, they show up, and I'm already onto something else. So I have very little idea what I'm supposed to do. It's very hard to paint when you're not excited about what you're painting. And so that's where I find myself now. I was planning on painting 2 armies for Rune Wars, and I had a bunch of stuff for 40K that I wanted to paint, and I wanted to get all of that done before a little game called Firefly Adventures came out. And Firefly Adventures was supposed to come out in October or November, actually, were the original rumors, because other than completely flawed Amazon release dates, there was nothing I could find anywhere. So I was painting fiercely, trying to get all that Rune Wars stuff done. And then I thought, oh, you know what? Not just the Death card, but I would love to have, round out my Imperial Guard army a little bit more. So I picked up some models with the intention of painting those after I finished with my Death Guard. And then, of course, I picked up the entire run of Battles of Westeros, thinking, well, those are small, I can paint those. And still thinking the whole goal, of course, was the Firefly crew that I would paint when Firefly Adventures came out. Except that Firefly Adventures didn't come out in October, didn't come out in November, and I kept buying Death Guard models because I was having so much fun painting them and playing them. And so I painted everything I had except for 7 more models, little basic infantry Marines, Plague Marines, because I wanted to have some depth on my bench. And then I got a bunch of demons, because you can summon demons, and those haven't even been put together yet. I sadly have never even touched any of the Battles of Westeros, and I have now painted almost 4 complete Rune Wars armies. And of course, on top of that, I am now painting a bunch of Necromunda stuff, because that's what I'm interested in. Right now, I would love to paint the Firefly Adventures models, but they don't exist. So in lieu of that, I'm really enjoying looking forward to painting the Necromunda stuff. Except that I've got this whole army of elves still to finish for Rune Wars. And here's the other problem, is I know if I don't finish them now, I'm never going to finish them. And I was painting them for friends who wanted to play them. So now I'm in a bit of a conundrum. Do I rush the elves and not do a great job, but at least get them finished? Do I put them aside with every intention of doing them later, knowing I probably will never get to them? And my friends won't really care because they play whatever I'm playing and whatever I want to play. But I mean, they paid for them, and I want them to be able to. We used one unit once last week, so I would like for them to be able to use the whole army if they have that, desire. And of course, now I have all of this terrain that I got for Shadow War Armageddon that I primed and did a base coat to, but never finished, that I really want to finish now, that I could use for pretty much any sci-fi game, but definitely 40K and absolutely Necromunda. So I am now back where I was all those years while I was playing 40K, because for some reason 40K is the only game that really puts me in this position where there's constantly new stuff coming out so fast and so good that I'm interested in so much that I just buy stuff and I'm going to paint this later. And then of course I never do. So what am I going to do? I have no idea. Right now, I have lost 2 days of painting trying to figure out this whole computer thing. So I'm not sure at all what I'm going to do. But the computer, as I said, is now dead and at a repair shop. And I am talking at my phone, watching it clip pretty much every word. So I don't know what I'm going to do. What do you think I should do? I don't know. And you know what? That's about all I've got to say about that. So thanks for listening if you did. And good night. New, 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 new. New, 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 new. New, 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 new. New, 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 new. Bow, 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 bow.
Achievement unlocked. You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@the d6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA Discussions Forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
Ahoy!
That was it. Ahoy!
That is what 10 minutes of thought.
A lot of build-up.
That was another one I just thought of.
I think you're right, though. I think that might be too long.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too parody, which is also good.
I gave up on the other one. Sorry.
All right.
So
okay.
I think I broke something in my throat.